Welcome everybody to the PodAskew Podcast. I am CJ, and with me always is my hetero life mate, Rico.
Hey guys, how are you?
How you doing, brother?
Oh, I've been off and on okay. Some interesting shit happened this past week.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Some good, some bad. Well, we will. I definitely will tell you about it.
Yeah.
But
well, first
I'm very tired.
Yeah, well, first we have something to announce. Positive thing. We have our guest on the show, so
Right,
that's
a
exciting. A fan, yes. We the one of the two. One of the two.
Yeah, my mother couldn't make it.
Yeah. So, but he's your friend. You're our fan. Your friend. So why don't you introduce him, and then we'll go from there.
So yeah, we have a guest, and he is an old coworker of mine. Even though his stint at the video room didn't last long, he gave a very lasting impression, and we got. I'd like to say we got along pretty well. And I thought he was a good dude when I first met him. I thought he was a very dry sense of humor.
What do you hate him now? Jesus.
Yeah. I'm not now. I'm just talking about. I'm just being honest, and but I do value his friendship, and I do value him as, especially recently, what's been going on that he and I will both talk about in the episode, and he's been there. He's been a good friend for this. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dustin.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Dustin. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Glad to have you.
Join the ranks of the esteemed guests you've had on your show.
Yes. Well, we've only had two at this point.
All two of them.
Yeah. We got a third one coming, so that'll be exciting. So, but
yeah. Well, Rico, whenever I get done with your mom, she'll be able to come on the show.
Oh, shit! All right. Well, that's how it starts. Okay.
Oh. I'm actually really glad my mom does not listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Oy.
Anyway, well, that's a way to make your entrance to the show. Thank you, Dustin.
See, I told you he has a very dry sense of humor, but it's not without a little bit of love.
No, absolutely.
He's kind of like going dry, but you're still enjoying it.
Oh, boy. We're in for it today. All right, so we're in for an exciting topic today. We're going to get into things that are going on in our lives like we usually do, but I want to give everyone a preview of what's coming. We're going to be talking about movie soundtracks today and hopefully ranking our top fives each and arguing and discussing and all that good jazz. So I'm really excited about that because, as we've talked about on the show previously, my niche is music more than movies, and so it lets me kind of flex my muscle a little more than usual. But Rico, I got to tell you about something that happened to me this week that didn't see coming.
Your ball finally dropped.
Yes, that did happen, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, fucking Louie, I'm so happy.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
No, my car was incorrectly repossessed on Friday.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be, but it was.
All right. Well, you're going to have to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So, well, that's a good fucking question, but...
What's the good fucking year?
Well, I don't have that one yet, but no, a month ago or so, I had gotten behind on my payments. I'm going to be honest, and I was in threat of repossession, but the bank reached out and told me as such and said, look, we put the repossession order out, but they haven't gotten a car yet, and if you can, work with us, we'll cancel the repossession order and everything will be okay. And I went, okay, what do I have to do? And we worked out something that wouldn't destroy me financially, but appease them, and everybody seemed happy. And we thought all was good. And then I go out to go to work Friday, and my car's gone. So, first thing I do is call the police because I think my car's been stolen, of course, as you do. And, the police came out and they were very cool about the whole thing. And I explained, that story I just basically said to you, but in greater detail. And they called over to their department wherever and said, yeah, it looks like they repossessed the car. Because anytime they repossess a car, at least in New Jersey, but I'm assuming nationwide, they have to let the local police know exactly for this reason. So then I called the bank and I talked to the same guy I talked to, a month earlier, and I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I was more professional and calm about it, but I was like, what's going on here? I thought everything was good, whatever, and it turns out that somewhere in the chain of shit, because he's in collections, there's a repo department that then deals with an intermediary that handles the repossession with the tow company, and somewhere along the chain, the cancellation got lost. So as far as the repo people were concerned, it was still out for repossession this whole time, and eventually they got their hands on it.
Wow.
So that started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I got the car back at 6:30 that night.
Well, at least you got it back that day. And
no. Yeah, thank you. But I raised shit because by about 4 o'clock, when nothing had really progressed, I went from calm and professional to get me my fucking car. And I did it very quickly. And so I got it back. But yeah, so that was my Friday. Which, Rico, I know you've been through some shit this week, and you're going to get into that, and it doesn't necessarily chalk up, but holy fuck.
I mean, that still fucking sucks. I mean, there's no competition of who had the worst week. You certainly, what you went through sucks. And I'm kind of impressed that, you did it so quickly. I mean, I'm trying to imagine the Jersey temper, you becoming the Jersey Devil. And actually getting shit done. Your deep-rooted Sicilian Greek blood finally coming out and overtaking the German adoption you have.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. We've talked about it before. I work in the banking profession, and I've spent time in the call center there. So I know what it's like to be all the people involved in this. So I try to stay empathetic as long as possible. But when 4 o'clock hit, and it looked like there was zero progress, I had enough.
Yeah. And you can only be so empathetic in those situations, and you really got to kind of
drop the hammer.
Yeah, drop the hammer, whip your dick out, piss on something. I don't know, whatever the hell you got to do to get the job done.
Yeah, something like that. So, but
I
anyway,
don't even realize why Dustin doesn't work in the video room anymore.
Yeah, I kind of got that too.
Everything before I left. That's why it still smells like that.
Is that how my room kind of smells like pee? Did you break in? Did you piss all over my room?
Maybe.
I just thought that was something you did when you were drunk one night, Rico, honestly.
That sounds
cool. If I was that drunk, I would have shat the bed.
Wow.
That's news to know.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So,
for the record, I've never shat on bed. I've shat near a bed because my toilet is across from my bedroom.
Okay. Anyway.
Lovely imagery. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's move on to happier topics because we still are a comedy show and we do need to bring some levity, especially after all that. So, like I said, one of the things we're going to talk about today, and this was Dustin's idea, is movie soundtracks. So
if you don't like it, blame Dustin.
Yes, it's all his fucking fault.
Absolutely.
We're going to be going through
everything. I blame you for Trump being president, Obama not being president. I blame you for all this bullshit that we're going through right now. It's all Dustin. It's all your fault.
That's fair. I blame I'm from Georgia, so that makes sense.
Can I blame the repossession on him then? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Then that's your fucking fault too.
Dude, I lost my car keys. I couldn't find them. I blame you.
All right.
That was me as well. That's fine.
If this is how we treat our guests, we're never getting another one again.
It feels like I'm at a family reunion right now. I'm used to being the scapegoat. It's okay. It's totally fine.
That's awesome.
Dustin's not a guest. He's a fan.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you are a fan. I appreciate you listening to the show. All seriousness, I'm glad you're enjoying it. any feedback you've got, we would appreciate. And actually, that leads me to my first question before we get into the soundtracks. I sent you the EP for the band that does our opening theme, and I would love to hear your thoughts.
I enjoyed it. It's not normally what I listen to, but I did enjoy it, and I was impressed. Because when I first heard the show, I heard the opening. I was like, wow, this is like a really good intro. I was really impressed by it.
Cool. And as you can tell, the music's, I don't want to say all over the place, but it's certainly got its different areas it seems to punch into. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A little all over the place.
Do you remember the description I told you they came up with for their music? If you don't, I can say it. It's not a big deal, but
I remember reading it and I was like, this is a hodgepodge of words that doesn't belong together.
But now that you've heard the music, okay, well, before I ask you, the way they dubbed in English described their music to people was industrial synth goth. And as Dustin said, it sounds like a hodgepodge of words that don't belong together. But now that you've heard the whole EP, is that an apt description of the music?
I couldn't think of a better way to put it.
There you go.
That's not saying much because I'm a moron, but it's still a pretty good genre classification, I must say.
All right. Well, good. Glad you liked it. Just thought I'd ask since we were going to be getting into this anyway. So, we're doing our top 5 soundtracks, like I've mentioned ad nauseum already, and I figure since Dustin, you're our guest, we should let you go first.
Okay, cool. Well, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about like some history of the soundtracks.
Okay.
Soundtracks and film and stuff.
Real quick, I should clarify for the audience, and we all discussed, there's 2 things that are DQ'd from this conversation. Number
That's
one,
right.
If it's a score, it doesn't count. We're talking
no
songs.
Hans Zimmer in here. No Hans Zimmer. No
fuck
John
that
Williams.
guy.
Get out of here.
So yeah, no Star Wars, no indie, none of that stuff. I'm sure there's plenty I'm missing, but those are the 2 off the top of my head that I think of. And then also no musicals, meaning, and we were specific about this, if it's been on stage first, it does not qualify. So there are some movies that are musical movies, but they were never on stage, so they would qualify, but the rest do not.
And so I disagree with that too, because there's a lot of musicals that weren't on stage, but that's semantics. So there's no reason.
No, say it again. I missed that. I'm not arguing.
There's a lot of films that are classified as musicals that never appeared on stage, like La La Land, the best.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They qualify because they weren't on stage. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
The ones that have never been on a stage prior to being on the screen are still within the scope. I'm talking stuff like
Across the Universe.
Well, yeah, that would work. No, that would work. But I'm talking about I was trying to think about something that was disqualified. So something like West Side Story, I think, was a stage play first, so that wouldn't count.
The Rodgers and Hammerstein type, those old the 50s, yeah, for sure.
Sound of Music, I think, is another one that would be disqualified. So stuff like that. But you're right. Absolutely. Across the Universe would count. So, and actually, well, we'll see. What's that, Rico? Oh, we lost him again. There he is.
Oh, okay.
I said Rock of Ages.
Yes, Rock of Ages would also be disqualified, unfortunately, because that would probably be on my list, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, well, because... Okay, so, Dustin, you don't know a whole lot about me. I'm 38, so that 80s music I grew up with. I mean, I'm more of a child of the 90s, but I definitely know those 80s songs well enough to recognize them and enjoy them. Like the opening scene when they're on that bus and Sister Christian, the whole bus starts singing Sister Christian. I'm like, yeah! So, you know.
I think we can all agree that's Tom Cruise's best film.
Oh, I'm not going there. No, because I'm the only one who's a fan in this group, it appears. So, anyway. Well,
do you guys know the...
he can be an actor, not being a good actor.
What was that, Rico?
Say that again. Yeah, that was all jumbled.
Can be a good actor if he really tries, but when he's not trying, he's...
Yeah, he's real hit or miss. I mean, I like him a lot. I think he's a phenomenal actor, but I just wanted to take a quick jab at his role in Rock of Ages.
Well, then It's not as bad as I thought. Anyway, get to your point, Dustin. That's my fault for cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's fun. We're here just to talk shit and have fun anyways. I was just going to say, do you guys know what the first movie was to have a soundtrack released?
I don't. So,
Rico, you got any idea? Take that as a no.
What's your question?
The first movie to have a soundtrack released. It was Snow White.
I do not.
Snow White.
Really?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah. 1937.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, do you guys have any idea what the top-selling soundtrack of all time is?
I think I do know that one, but I'll see if Rico has a thought first.
I'm just kind of disappointed there's a fucking test to this episode.
It's a guess. It's just a guess.
I didn't know I was supposed to do homework.
Well,
I don't know. What is it?
Well, wait.
What do you think
let me make my guess. My initial thought would be Saturday Night Fever.
Okay. That's Saturday Night Fever's second on the list, actually.
Okay, so I'm close. I'm doing good here.
Yeah. The Bodyguard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense because of the
Every
Whitney
mom
Houston thing.
Ever bought that stupid soundtrack when it came out? Every mom in America bought it. It sold, I think it was 17 million copies.
So that was 92? 91? So, to be fair,
that sounds right, yeah.
My pick was pretty good for
a
long time.
Second, and then Purple Rain, Forrest Gump, and Dirty Dancing are the top 5.
Okay. And all...
Forrest Gump was going to be one of my picks.
Yeah.
And I was hoping someone would, and if not, because I made my top 5 and I stuck to the rules, but I also came up with a whole bunch of honorable mentions in case nobody mentioned them, because I needed to talk about them. But anyway.
Maybe we can all bring up our honorable mentions at the end or something. That'd be kind of fun.
Absolutely.
So I guess I'll just jump into my top 5.
Please.
So I have... bless you.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It's all right.
I'm allergic to bullshit.
Oh, okay. Good. Hearing yourself talk then. So my start off with a bullet is this actually I have the soundtrack right here on vinyl is High Fidelity.
Okay. This is gonna Rico. You wait. No. Hold on, because based on Rico's reaction and mine, I think we all have the same. Maybe number 1.
That's
because
good.
It's on my list for sure.
Yeah. I didn't put mine in any particular order or anything, but it's great that we all put it. That means we can all talk about it more easily. And I even have the poster or the.
I saw it. As soon as you came on, I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to talk about this."
No, we can talk about it. That's great. That's great. That means we all appreciate it and discuss it.
Great music on that soundtrack. Great.
It's so amazing. And I was listening to the vinyl just this morning. I mean, and it's a weird, because it's based off a book, Nick Hornby.
Yep.
And it's
good book. Have you read the book?
London. Yeah, it's great. I love all of his stuff. About a boy.
Yep.
Yeah, all of his stuff's really great. Fever Pitch even enjoyed.
That's one of the few that they turned into the movie that I like the movie better. Like most of his books, I like the books better, but in that one, I actually like the movie better.
Did you? You're referring to the Jimmy Fallon version?
Yeah.
They had a British version too with Colin Firth was in it as well.
I did not see that.
Yeah. But no, it's an amazing adaptation. The music's so wonderful. I mean, it's hard. It goes across 3 mediums. It's a book about music that was turned into a movie.
Yep.
So, and it's a movie. It's about music snobs. So you better make fucking sure that you have a really good soundtrack, or everyone's gonna be pissed off.
I will tell you right now, I am not a Jack Black fan in general, and I love him in that role. I really do.
Yeah, Barry is amazing, and I mean, I think Stephen Frears had to fight to keep Jack Black in that role.
What's that, Rico?
I said I 100% agree. I'm not a fan of Jack Black, and I actually, especially when I was younger, I had longer hair. I was always being compared to Jack Black, which kind of frustrated the fuck out of me. But he is fucking amazing in High Fidelity. It is such a good performance that even I'm like, yeah, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And Dustin, I'm trying not to steal the floor from you because I could talk about this movie.
Let's go.
I could do this whole episode about High Fidelity.
Well, I think we should. I mean, if we all put it on there, let's just all talk about it right now. Why not?
My friends, when they saw that movie, they saw it before I did, and they came back from the theater and they were like, "Dude, they made a movie about you, and you need to see this." Because I was working at Sam Goody at the time.
Hey, I worked at Sam Goody.
There you go.
See?
Hey. We actually talked about that on the episode that's coming out tonight, so make sure you listen to that. We talk about it a little bit. But yeah, I've always had a problem with women in dating and that whole thing, and I could give you a top 5 breakup list easily without even thinking twice about it. So that movie hit home for me. And honestly, anytime I think about that title, the first song that pops into me in my head is honestly that's the end credits one, the Stevie Wonder song. I believe I love that fucking song. There's a great music on that soundtrack across the board, but that's the one that always I think about every time.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, I mean, and what's great too is that it's a soundtrack that has so many massive names in it, but of course, them being the music snobs, it's none of their hits.
Yeah,
so you have Bob Dylan, you have Stevie Wonder, you have the Kinks, you have Velvet Underground. And they're the songs like, where the fuck? I've never heard this song before. And
yeah.
I think that's what kind of helps and bolsters it and makes it like a true all-star soundtrack from track 1 all the way to the end. To Stevie Wonder, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's an amazing soundtrack. I love that. I love that. And honestly, the fact that it even birthed Tenacious D was okay for me because I'm not the biggest Tenacious D fan.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because he'd been doing Tenacious D for a while, but no one knew. So I never really heard of Tenacious D. So I see this movie, and then the end of it, I'm like, oh, Jack Black can sing? Because I think we all kind of shared that Rob Gordon moment where we're like, oh, fuck,
yeah.
he's actually a good performer. Like, this is interesting. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rico. You want to say something? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was agreeing because, like, not to mention, like, he's singing, like,
Marvin Gaye.
Let's Get It On, which is kind of, he's singing Marvin Gaye of all fucking people, which, judging from his character throughout the whole film, you would never once kind of think that he would, one, sing that song, 2, sing it well, and 3, actually kind of make you be like, I kind of prefer this version over Marvin Gaye. And
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But well, it is a fun.
But also, I wanted you guys were talking about what song was like the one that kind of like your favorite moment. For me, my favorite part when he has that soundtrack moment that is like my favorite part of the movie that I loved the most was when he walks out of the apartment building in triumphant and it's playing "We Are the Champions" by Queen.
Okay.
To me, that is such a great part where he's just and he starts like shadow boxing like Muhammad Ali, and it's just like for me it was just a great flow of the character and a great use of music for a film.
I feel so good, in fact, that I go out immediately and sleep with Marie DeSalle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just I could do the movie right here, right now. I could probably do all the dialogue.
Like, I don't want to. I've never been aroused by hearing Peter Frampton, except for when I hear her sing it.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense for that cover that she does.
How gorgeous is Lisa Bonet in that movie?
Oh,
Holy
man.
Shit!
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, even like, and I don't know if you know this, the woman who was music supervisor, Kathy Nelson. I went and looked her up. She's done like everything. She did Pulp Fiction. She did Weird Science. Okay. She did Repo Man. Sorry, bad timing for that reference. Pump Up the Volume. All kinds of stuff.
You got Rico on that one.
That was good.
I want to circle back to the Jack Black performance for a minute because it was, like I said, I think Tenacious D came from that. Dustin, I don't think he was doing that prior to that movie. I think that was the birth of that band.
Oh, so Tenacious D was just from that?
Well, that's not Tenacious D on stage, but I think they saw his talent, ability, and went, okay, let's do a...
I just always thought it was Jack Black and Kevin Gass were buddies, and they performed together, and then
They may have prior to the movie, but I think what got them signed and got them a record deal was his performance in that movie, that performance, the Marvin Gaye performance.
That makes sense, yeah.
The other thing that I found was real interesting was they had the guitar player, the guy with the long hair and the leather jacket. Do you know who that is?
I don't recall, no.
He is the guitar player from Faith No More. His name escapes me right now, but he's an actual guitar player in a band. And he is closer to the description of Dick in the book than... So I feel like they picked him for that role as kind of like a throw to the book because they changed the character so much from a visual perspective from the book. Because that's one thing Nick Hornby's really good with his books. He's good at describing what people look like, what they're wearing, the environment around them. And the description of Dick does not fit... What's his name? Ted Louis? What's his name?
Obi?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's such a great soundtrack, and I could go all day. But
yeah, I mean, it's one of the best, and in fact, Chicago Magazine did a #1 best films in Chicago, and that was or top list, and #1 was High Fidelity above Blues Brothers, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Wow, yeah. So real quick, just because you mentioned Chicago, because I know some people had an issue with this. I didn't, but did you have an issue with them moving it from England to Chicago?
No, I didn't. I didn't at all. Nick Hornby himself has praised the adaptation. He gets it. And I mean, he said that watching John Cusack, he thought watching the movie was like watching John Cusack read his book aloud.
Nice.
Which I think says all you need to say about that adaptation.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think that's probably a good way to hit that. Okay, so Dustin, what's the second one on your list?
I think one that some of us probably will share is Pulp Fiction.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's not on my list, surprisingly. It's on my honorable mentions, but it's not on my list. Rico?
Right.
Rico?
It's definitely on my list.
Okay.
All right.
You're seeming irritated right now, Rico. Are you okay, brother?
Because I keep trying to make this more fresh. Like, keep amending my list. So I'm like going through a list of like movie soundtracks. I'm like, well, fuck, they already chose High Fidelity. Yeah, we can talk about High Fidelity, but I don't want to. So yeah, High Fidelity was on my list before. I crossed it up. Pulp Fiction is still on my list. I'm not crossing it up, but I agree with everything that Dustin and probably CJ is going to say.
Well, and
so I'm just going to stop amending it. So we all have basically more or less the same soundtrack list, and fuck it.
And here's the thing you got to keep in mind, Rico, and I'm being serious about this. Even if we have the same things on our list, that gives us more time to talk about those particular items, because we're not going to be talking about 15 different soundtracks. We might be talking about 7 different ones in total. Who knows? So don't look at it as a negative. It just means that all 3 of us love the same shit, and that's not a bad thing.
It's no surprise that we're doing a podcast together then, if all...
Yeah, right? So, all right. So, yeah, Pulp Fiction's got some great music, and we talked about on the episode that's coming out tonight that Quentin Tarantino takes his music very, very seriously. So, the fact that you picked that does not surprise me. But get into why that's yours.
I mean, just from the start of the movie, I mean, you have the Pulp Fiction song, as it's called. It's the
Miserable.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such a unique film soundtrack in that it's a movie that's about people who are very much aware of what their surroundings are. Well, when it comes to the music, it's like they're stuck 30 years behind. Yeah, absolutely. But in a good way. And in a great way. And it's very purposeful. Like you said, Tarantino does on purpose. And I mean, just when you meet Marcellus Wallace, the first thing you hear is soul music playing, which of course has implications on the briefcase and what's in the briefcase. And whenever you see Byrne and Jules, they're listening to Kool and the Gang and other soul and funk bands as well. And then when you hear Bruce Willis, he's got his country, got the Statler Brothers playing, and there's so much that's going on with the film that it directly affects the characters. Or the characters affect the music. And the same when we see Uma Thurman with Urge Overkill's Girl, You're Gonna Be a Woman Soon. Which is the only song that's in that decade, I think. Yeah, that's the only one, because it's a cover by Urge Overkill, because Neil Diamond... Is it a cover? Yeah, it's a cover.
Oh, shit. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. They covered it, and they had it on like one of their early EPs, and it was a throwaway song, and Tarantino heard it and was like, this is going to be in the fucking movie.
So I will tell you a funny story about when I was probably like 10. So we're talking 1990, right around the time the movie came out. Well, no, actually it was 96, I think. So probably closer to that age. And so 16. But we snuck into that movie. We bought tickets to some fucking G-rated shit and went and saw Pulp Fiction. And the song that hit me, because sometimes, and Dustin, sounds like you and I are very much similar on the same page when this, but not to take away from you, Rico, but sometimes a song will just hit you, even if it has nothing to do with the words. Just the music will hit you, and the tone, and the way it comes through. And the one that got me was Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield. I love that song. And there was this phone number you could call, and I wish I would have was, because it was like a movie phone, but it wasn't movie phone, but you could listen to like clips of the songs from the soundtrack. And I would call that like a couple times a day and listen to like the 10 seconds you could get before I bought the soundtrack. Because I love that song so much. And it's still one of my favorite songs.
I agree. That's one of my personal favorites from there too. I'm glad we share that love of that song. And I mean, yeah, that's the whole soundtrack itself. It's just, yeah, we could go. I mean, there's dissertations that are written on Pulp Fiction, obviously, sure. And then the film, the music in it itself, it's in a whole other conversation. And I mean, it's definitely one that's shaped the pantheon for soundtracks for the next. We still feel the ramification of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. Prime example of it, and a big example, which I'm sure we'll talk about that movie at some point today. So, but yeah.
So here's my question for you guys, being movie buffs more than me. Like, I appreciate movies, but Rico and I talk about it all the time. He's a movie guy, and I'm just a fan. That's really how we define things, and I mean that in the best way possible. What do you think about them putting clips of dialogue smattered throughout the soundtrack? So the Ezekiel 25:17, the Royal with Cheese, the Zed's Dead, that kind of stuff. What do you guys feel? Is that a cheap way out? Does it hurt things? Does it help things? Is it indifferent? What do you think?
I think it brings the story along. I think it makes it less of a soundtrack and more of a story.
Okay.
And I think that's a very unique Tarantino thing. I mean, what I want to mention, I didn't want to jump in because obviously there's a lag, so I'm just kind of out of character, keeping my mouth shut until obviously I can jump in when there's another big enough gap. I want to say for Pulp Fiction, because it was on my list, I would say that Pulp Fiction, in terms of if we're using a Tarantino subject, Pulp Fiction, I would say, has probably the best soundtrack. But in terms of him using music or a song in a movie that impacted me personally the most, I would probably say Stuck in the Middle of You in Reservoir Dogs probably had a more guttural, visceral reaction than hearing, Kool and the Gang or Miserlou or whatever in Pulp Fiction.
Sure. Because
it is actually a fucking terrifying scene to see Michael Madsen, just strut around with a razor in his hand, singing along to Steelers Wheel, and cutting a motherfucking dude's ear off. Because now that song will never be the same in pop culture.
Do you know the story about him getting the rights to use Stuck in the Middle of You? For
I do not.
Well, so he really wanted to use it to pay homage to some older films and stuff, of course. But so their budget that they had for music was only like $10,000. And Steelers Will, Jerry Rafferty, the lead singer, was asking way too much money to use the song. So Tarantino was like, we're going to get this song. So they went and approached Jerry Rafferty directly and told them what they were going to use it for, and this hyper-violent scene, and they convinced them to let them use the song in the movie. And they ended up paying them $10,000, so they blew their entire music budget just to get that one song. But
wow.
You're right, that song, just everyone will forever remember. Steelers Will, who heard it after, I guess, for the first time, saw Reservoir Dogs, will forever remember, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Also, I want to pause one more time. This is on camera. Dustin, you're drinking out of a Kona Club glass, are you not?
Yeah, I am.
So that's where a little sidebar back to Art. That's where we went to the bar and met with Art.
There you go.
Is a little. It's almost like a touching little tribute. Did you plan that? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Good for you, man. That's really good of you to do that.
I like that too. Not having known that prior, but I like that. Just real quick, getting to blowing the budget on a song. Now, we're talking about a movie that had a budget way bigger than Pulp Fiction, but Thor Ragnarok getting the Immigrant song. Holy shit. I mean, when that hit, when you first saw the trailer that had it, and then to go and see the movie, and then it's in the movie, you're like, yes. And Rico, you brought up a great point when we did the Infinity War episode that I wish they had done. And Dustin, did you listen to that episode? Did you get to hear that?
I don't think I've listened to that one yet, because I haven't seen Infinity War yet, so I didn't want to listen to it.
Oh, that's fair. Oh,
Yeah.
don't.
You haven't seen Infinity War?
Yeah,
No,
what's wrong with
I
you?
don't suck Marvel's dick like you two guys do, so I'm not.
Well, yeah, we
obsessed
do.
with anything they really.
But in any event, all right. Well, I'll try not to spoil anything for you, but there's a.
I know what happens. It's okay.
Okay. Well, but in the huge fight scene when Thor comes out of space, basically, Rico, you brought up the point that they should have hit the song when he hit the ground and electrocuted like 10,000 motherfuckers or whatever it was. And you're right. That would have been amazing for that song to kick in again right at that moment. Even if they didn't play the whole thing, but just because that song's got such a punch. I mean, and real quick to tie it, yeah, and to tie it together, the Trent Reznor version from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a really good version. Like
That is really good.
That's a dangerous song to cover, and they did a good job with it. I got to give them credit for that.
That's
So
a
anyway,
good pull. I forgot about that. That's
back
a good
here-
pull.
I will give Trent Reznor.
what's that, Rico? Go.
Trent Reznor is one of the Trent Reznor is probably the few individuals who could remix a song and make it sound just as good as the original, if not almost more so. It's so weird we're talking about this because I babysat for my brother last night, and he came home hammered. And my brother, when he's like fucked up in some way, is just the best person to have a conversation with. And he went on a whole tangent about Trent Reznor, and he was like, "Dude, the fucking soundtrack to Social Network is amazing." I'm like, "Really? Was it really?" And because when I first saw Social Network, the music was so subtle that I barely noticed it.
Well,
and then I watched it again, and then it just became a whole new life. Once he was just like, "Dude, trust me, it's haunting, it's creepy, and it makes Facebook terrifying."
No, there's two things that make that movie really dark and scary for not being a horror flick, and the two things are Reznor's score, because that's more of a score than a soundtrack, to be fair, or at least the way we're defining things today, and then Fincher's film style. David Fincher, I mean, it's why I love Fight Club, because it's a dark fucking movie. It's a dark subject matter, but the style in which Fincher shoots it makes it that much darker. So that's what makes that movie so good. Both Social Network and
the dialogue.
What's that?
The dialogue too.
Oh, well, of course. But I'm talking about from a audio-visual perspective, before you get into the acting and the things like that. So what's your next one? Or unless you had something else you wanted to say about Pulp?
No, I just the last thing I wanted to say was a lot of people wonder why he used like the surf music kind of aspect in Pulp Fiction, and it was just a random Tarantino quote that I read, and it's word for word what he said, and it's very, very Quentin. It just seems like rock and roll in Ennio Morricone music, rock and roll spaghetti western music. That was just very much,
There's one thing I wanted to mention, because I asked you guys about the interloping the dialogue with the music on the soundtrack, and it was something I'd wanted to say about it. The only issue I had with it, I didn't mind that he did it, I actually kind of liked it myself, was that he didn't... there were some pieces of dialogue where music kicked in the movie, and he didn't link the same songs to the same dialogue on the soundtrack. Specifically, the Zed's Dead. The song that plays after that on the soundtrack is not the song that kicks in when he rides away on the motorcycle in the movie. And I don't know why he did that. That's the only thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't either. I was reading up before we had this conversation about some aspects, and I didn't read anything about that. He did say that he wanted to put the conversations on the soundtrack because it gives, like Rico said, it gives you a sense of the story without watching the film. And it made basically how it worded was that you get this song is supposed to evoke similar feelings that you had when you watched that in the film. So maybe if it was an exact song, he perhaps thought that it would invoke the same kind of emotion that you had.
I could see that. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your next one?
Did you guys all see Hateful Eight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it once, but I've seen it.
Do you know the part of where Jennifer Jason Leigh's playing on the guitar and singing?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
In the soundtrack, you can actually hear the hammering in the background when he goes in the part they're hammering the door closed again. And also to add a little trivia, that guitar that she's playing was like an antique. So when Kurt Russell grabbed it and smashed it, he didn't know they were supposed to switch it with a fake one. So he shattered a guitar from the 1880s.
Oh my God.
And her reaction, which is, I believe, on the soundtrack as well as in the film, is 100% genuine. Oh my God, why did you do that? You could actually see her look to probably where Quentin is sitting, and he's probably like, oh, fuck.
Right.
We just destroyed an antique because Kurt Russell just didn't get Kurt Russell later said, I had no fucking clue.
I bet Tarantino set it up. I bet Tarantino did it on purpose just to get that.
It is possible. So,
but it's a real visceral reaction.
I'm sure.
Oh God.
Yeah. All right, Dustin. So give me your number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is a cult classic of 1993. This movie is really big to me because it was the first time I ever got high. I happened to watch this movie.
Okay.
So, Dazed and Confused.
You know what? I almost put this one on my list. I really did. And I just had others I wanted more, but it would have been, it's definitely in my honorable mentions.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movie soundtrack that's so good that they gave it a second soundtrack. And
I'm about to do both off really, really badly. I haven't seen Dazed and Confused.
Oh, okay.
What?
I'm surprised because it's Linklater and he was the epitome of the slacker culture, which, inspired our God and Savior, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed that you haven't, but that's so cool. I won't judge you for it, you piece of shit. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I will a little bit. I don't know.
Not to mention,
it's on my list to watch.
All kidding aside, you get T.S.'s brother. His twin brother plays the main character.
Yeah, the other London.
Fucking tell them two apart.
Well, I just happen to know, but
if you see it now, then you can tell them apart.
So, Dustin, I'll tell you real quick since he hasn't seen it. I'm a video game player, but I'm not a big sports video game player. Every once in a while, I'll play one, but I'm more into other styles of games. But every once in a while, if I get my hands on a baseball game, I will create Mitch Kramer as a pitcher for my team every time. You
could just play as Tim Lincecum because that's basically who Mitch Kramer grew up to become. So
I remember seeing him for the first time and went, "Oh my God, it's Mitch Kramer." I do remember thinking that, but
that's
Rico.
Funny. That's great.
All joking aside, you need to see it. It's a really good movie. Was it Affleck's first movie? Because I know he's in it. It's got to be close, right?
It's right around there.
Yeah.
I mean, this was what, 92, 93, yeah. So I mean,
93,
it's got to be his first. I mean,
94.
so many guys started off in that movie, and I mean, it's the cast that they all went on to gross $1 billion. You know,
and then some of them fell off though. Like the guy that plays Benny hasn't done a whole lot. He's done a few things, but he didn't do a lot. The black guy, which is the token black guy in the movie,
on purpose too, for sure.
The last time I looked up the cast, he's been in 3 movies and it just fell off. Like he went off and did something else.
And you have Renee Zellweger, who has she doesn't speak at all in the movie, but Mila Jovovich obviously she went on to have
Renee. When's Renee in it? I know Joey
Lauren is in it, but Renee is like one of the seniors. She's like a brat.
Is she? Shit, I'll have to go back now.
I don't know if she's one of the seniors. I can't remember now. She has no speaking line. She's just in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got Anthony Rapp, who went on to do Rent and all that stuff.
Who'd you say?
Anthony Rapp.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And real quick,
is he the one who accused Kevin Spacey?
Yes, he is.
Yep.
Yeah. And then when the Goldbergs came out, the show, and Adam Goldberg, I thought it was that guy. It's not. It's a different Adam Goldberg, but fuck if I would have known.
That's one of the best scenes, too, is, I just want to dance.
Yeah. Mickey Cat.
Slater went on to do a bunch of TV. He's had a good career. He was just in the Hostiles movie, actually. He was really good in that as well.
I know we're going to be doing honorable mentions later, but that does tie to another one of my honorable mentions, and if it's on one of your lists, then we'll get into it then, but Empire Records, because he's in that, which was a great soundtrack. So
that was not on my list, but it was definitely one honorable mention. Yeah, that's a great one.
So,
we can talk about the soundtrack. I guess is what we should do.
I'm sorry, but
no, it's great because we love the movie, so it's wonderful. It's definitely one of those that, like, I call it a cult classic, and a lot of people use cult pretty liberally, but it's EW had it number 17 in their top 50 cult films of all time.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
It's did we just lose Rico?
No, he's back.
Okay. All right, cool. It was there's so much to go on about. I mean, like the opening shot, you have Aerosmith "Sweet Emotion" playing, which isn't on the soundtrack actually.
Yes. Well, no, isn't it? I don't think
that it is because I was reading in Hurricane by Bob Dylan is on the soundtrack. Ted Nugent is on there, and then Sweet Emotion I don't think is on there.
You might be right. I'm not gonna. I can't say you're wrong. I'm gonna go look it up because I'm curious, but I'm not saying you're wrong.
I may be mistaken, but I was looking at someone that listed. I may have wrote that wrong, but apparently he wanted to use Zeppelin at the opening of the movie. But
what song?
It didn't say, which it could have been any number.
Yeah,
that would fit in that. So,
although I think Sweet Emotion fit. Like I mean, obviously we don't know which one he was going to use, but I don't know that Zeppelin would have fit that scene as well as Sweet Emotion does.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's one of those we're looking at in hindsight. But yeah, I mean, they really set the tone for the Cars. That's what we have is not only the vehicle that progresses the film, but progresses how we're hearing all of the music. It was one of the first movies to me that we had car music to me that we're riding along in the car and we're listening to it. So the shit that we're seeing on screen doesn't necessarily reflect what's happening in the music wise. So they're listening to a song and they're about to beat the shit out of Mitch. But like, why is this song playing? And it's because it's what's on the radio right now. Right.
Or even the not when I'm gonna beat the shit out, but the shotgun scene.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, and then some scenes are obviously some songs are really on the nose, like Alice Cooper. Both of his are really on the nose. So obviously, School's out. They're leaving, and then No More Mr. Nice Guy when they beat up Ben Affleck finally when Mitch gets his revenge. But
they didn't even beat him up; they just embarrassed the shit out of him, which was awesome.
Yeah, pouring the paint on him. But yeah, I guess not beat him up. But the guy that has revenge on him is kind of more what it is.
Right? No, I get your point. Yeah. But just for people who haven't seen it,
true.
You are
all
correct,
want to see Ben
sir.
Affleck get the shit kicked out of him. So
yeah, you are correct. It's not on here. Which I thought you were right, but I wasn't certain, and that's odd. That's really odd because it may
have just been that it cost more money. They didn't want to. I don't know. Who knows? It could have been any number, but it was on the Even More.
Yes.
On the second track.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm thinking it was because you're right. It was on that one. Yeah.
Because there was all the songs I think that weren't on the first one are on that one.
Yeah, I'm actually in iTunes right now looking at them. So yeah. The one that threw me, and I didn't realize it, I had gone back and watched this recently, and I didn't realize, because I didn't know the song as well when I first saw it in some subsequent viewings, is Cherry Bomb by the Runaways.
Yeah, I mean, that's, for that time period, too, that was right at the height of the Runaways when that would have been. So you had your Cherry and so much of the teen angst, rebellious. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense. It's a great one there. All
kidding aside, Rico, I think you would really enjoy the movie, like, all fucking with you around. Like, I really think you would enjoy that movie. Like, it's a movie you could kick back and just enjoy and relax. And
it's endlessly quotable. You would enjoy it. And, I mean, it's one of those, I don't want to blow it up more than it is, but it's worth viewing for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen clips of it. So I've seen clips enough where I'm like, okay, this looks interesting, but I have not taken the leap and actually watched it. I know I'll probably enjoy it. Also, to just throw this out there, I have not seen Almost Famous either.
Oh. You break my heart, Rico.
Yeah, that's
break
sad.
my heart.
That's one of the best Cameron Crowes. One of the only good Cameron Crowes, some people would argue.
I'm not disagreeing with it. Again, I've seen clips of it, but I haven't sat down, started from beginning to finish. No, and it's on my list. And I still, CJ is taking a mental list of movies that I need to see, and I'm sure there's already at least 4 or 5 on there right now.
No, I think we're up to 7 or 8.
I mean, yeah, and it's such a great film for music because it has, like we were saying, it has a billion songs in it basically, and so every scene seems to be layered with music. But it kind of makes it to where there's certain scenes where you don't have any music at all, and it makes those scenes that much more intense and potent. Like CJ at the end of the movie when they're on the football field, there's no music at all in that scene. Yep. And McConaughey is just like LIVIN living, man. Oh, he's being him. And it really punches that kind of the sentiment home.
No, you're right. It definitely does. The thing that popped into my head immediately when you said no music was you better watch your head, Junior, when they're climbing the moon tower.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Another person who doesn't have a speaking role in that, I'm pretty sure, but is listed as a character is Mila Jovovich. I don't think she has a line in the movie.
Well, she sings a song at the end of the movie.
Well, okay, yeah, but she doesn't have a line of dialogue. Because I think this song is an actual song.
I think that she has maybe 1 or 2, but her song though is was really good.
I like to reiterate to give you the actual pronunciation of her name, if you let me.
No.
All right, fine.
No, go ahead.
Her name
go ahead.
Mila Jovovich. It's Jojovic.
Okay.
Which doesn't sound nearly as good as Jojovich.
I'm never gonna say that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm gonna be honest.
I'm just I have that slight Tourette's when it comes it's this.
And that
people can't say my name correctly, so fuck her. I'm gonna say her name however I want. There we go.
That actually takes me to another movie though that it's not on any of my lists, and I don't want to spawn off too far, but Fifth Element.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the first time I ever saw her. So I saw Dazed and Confused before I saw Fifth Element, but I didn't realize that the girl that I was seeing was in Dazed. And
you wouldn't. She's so different. She's so
completely.
Different.
Yeah, and that RXRA song, Light of Love, at the end of the song, I actually like the end credits version better than the actual full version because on the soundtrack both are there. And then also, believe it or not, the opera scene with the blue alien, that is an amazing piece of music.
I forgot. That's really powerful. That's a really good one.
That song was constructed to be literally unsingable. So the opera singer who sang and dubbed the blue Twilight, clearly a Twilight, if we're being honest, she it was not supposed to be singable, so she had to do it one octave at a time, and then they looped it and synced together. But then it became a sort of unofficial challenge for opera singers. So there's actually footage of this supposedly unsingable opera song and actually getting it done properly, and it is amazing to see that these people just said, okay, the impossible, I'm going to try and achieve the impossible, and they do.
Yeah, I have to go watch that now because that's impressive. So
I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
You know what the most impressive high range singing in that movie is though?
Chris Tucker?
Yes. Come in, Dennis!
Come in!
That's from what I've heard, and you guys have your finger more on the pulse of this shit than I do, but I heard the reason we've never gotten a sequel to that movie is because he does not want to reprise that role in any way whatsoever. He wants nothing to do with that role. He tries to distance himself from that movie as far as possible.
That's not surprising.
He'll do a fucking Rush Hour 4.
What's that?
But he's going to do Rush Hour 4 instead?
Well, he probably doesn't want people coming up yelling Corbin at him anymore. So, and he was also offered $100 million, or not $100 million, but he was offered an asinine amount for Rush Hour 4. So
yeah, he was. They paid him a shit ton of money to do that.
Someone dubbed him the laziest man in Hollywood one time. So I think he just doesn't. I don't think he wants to do any movies, honestly, unless it's something he really, really wants to do.
But
you really need Chris Tucker back, though.
No. We had it. He had his time and his place, and it was fine, and we've moved on.
You know what? I enjoy Rush Hour movies. I know they're not good movies. I'm not going to sit here and pretend they're good films, but they're good to sit around and just.
No, they're fine. It's just
they
that
had good soundtracks too.
No, they do.
I mean,
but Jackie Chan and Chris.
Jackie Brown.
What's that?
He was memorable in Jackie Brown. I mean, he had a very small role in Jackie Brown, but I still fucking laughed my ass off when he's like in the trunk and like Samuel Jackson slams the trunk and he's like, motherfucker, everything.
Yeah.
Everyone. I mean, he had appeared in a lot of great soundtrack films. The Friday films had wonderful soundtracks as well. I mean, I'm talking shit about him, but I really do enjoy a lot of Chris Tucker's movies. He's obviously just happy doing what he does in like one movie every 5-10 years, and it's like, okay, cool, let's do that, man.
Because they pay him they back the Brinks truck up to him every time, and that's.
Well, I don't think anymore after Rush Hour 4 bomb. They're like, oh, we're good. Because he was in Silver Linings Playbook.
You mean 3?
Okay, whatever the hell it was. However many it was. Who cares?
Did 3 bomb? Because I like
Jackie Chan.
I liked 3 better than 2 for certain, and I would be okay with the 4th one. So
it was the rumor was it was supposed to be set in Russia. It was supposed to be called Russia Hour.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I'm like, wow, that alone is just a bad fucking idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to mention
right was now responsible for that. Good God.
Did Trump come up with the name for that movie? So, no, the movies are good, but it's just interesting. But we've gone off, and we have a lot more lists to go to. So why don't you give me number 4, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I got number 4. You guys probably, I don't know how you're feeling on this movie, but I remember when this movie first came out. Really resonated with me. Juno.
Oh shit! I wouldn't even thought of that, but that's a good one. Yeah,
I can agree with that. Yeah, I would not have picked it, but I definitely, and I wouldn't say that I loved the soundtrack, but I definitely can agree that the soundtrack fit the movie and kind of brought the movie a little bit more life.
And that's kind of where I sit too. Like it's not a memorable soundtrack in that regard, but it does fit the visuals that it's lined up with, I think. So
yeah, I mean, very memorable soundtrack to me. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. I mean, it was it was number 1 on the Billboard for soundtracks that year. It was a really big hit as a soundtrack as well.
I could see that.
Yeah, Kimya Dawson with the Moldy Peaches, they're largely responsible for the success of that soundtrack. Jason Reitman, who did the film, he wanted her Juno to be into glam rock, which would have made the whole tone of the movie totally different.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. But so he asked Ellen Page, he was like, so what music are you into? What do you think that Juno would like? And she's like, oh, there's this band called the Moldy Peaches. And so Jason Reitman heard them, and then was like, oh, this is it. This is what we're going to do. So they reached out to Kimya Dawson. They got them on board, and she wrote a bunch of the songs specifically for that movie also, which you don't hear too much anymore, which I thought was a really cool aspect to it as well. And she also, we should feel that she could be one of Rob Gordon's High Fidelity's children, the way her relation is with music, and especially.
That's true.
She very easily could have been from the Top 5 Breakups daughter.
Yeah. If I was going to pick one, it would probably be the movie critic one.
Oh, yeah.
That'd probably be who it would be.
With the taking notes with the little
the light pen.
Yeah.
He fucked that up so bad. He could have gotten laid that night, and he had to go into the thing, and anyway.
On him. That's what he did.
To be fair, I tried that journey 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and it went equally as poorly for me. So,
well, hopefully this one will pan out for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I meant going down the top 5 break.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. Anyway, we won't. That's not a story worth.
One similarity is High Fidelity, though. It shared a lot of the same music. Velvet Underground and the Kinks both appear in this. Mata Hoople, which all the young dudes.
Yeah.
Really, really prolific, popular song, especially after that time period. And it, influenced a lot of people to get. I know my wife, for example, everyone learned that song how to play on the guitar. It was like what's the name of it?
I don't know.
Anyone Else But You. That's the song. I think is what it is. Everyone learned that one afterwards. And actually, Michael Cera, Ellen Page cover they do at the end. They filmed that on the very last day of filming, and Kimmy Dawson gave them like notes on that day.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was a really good cover.
And to link it to something else real quick, again, going to honorable mentions for just a split second, because as soon as you said it, it made me think of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Michael Cera is in that movie as well.
Right.
What?
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say Kathy Nelson, who we talked about earlier, she did the music on Scott Pilgrim as well.
Okay. Because the opening, whenever the drummer would scream, "We are bomb," I can't ever say it, but
yeah,
it makes me smile every time I see it. So
that's a great one. But I mean, just to me, the movie it feels like a mixtape. Like it feels like a mixtape a friend would make for you. Who was just like, "Hey, I've just been listening to indie bands for the last year. Here it is," and it felt very authentic, and it felt like what it should be. So that's why Juno's on my list.
Rico, you look bored.
Oh, I'm not bored. I'm just trying to keep quiet, and I'm also, this is actually kind of refreshing because I don't have to be as on. I could just sort of take a step back and let you guys, because this is like where I'm just like retarded, where I just can't really, I mean, and I'm saying that in the sense that maybe retarded is not the good word.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the right word.
No, it's not.
You should cut that out, CJ.
I will. How about we'll say you're less knowledgeable about.
I'm definitely slow when it comes to.
No. Still not good. No.
Okay, I'm not knowledgeable on.
There you go.
On music as much as you guys. Clearly, you guys have more of a passion when it comes to music, and that's fine. I'm perfectly fine being not knowledgeable in the subject, because then I get to let you guys just talk, and I get to just, it's kind of like I'm just watching, like, I'm liking this as like I'm the grandfather who's letting the kids play, and I'm just gonna sit around and kind of watch and be like, you guys are having fun, have fun, go ahead.
And I'm willing to bet we're both older than you, which is the crazy part.
I think I'm 2 years older than Rico.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm substantially older than Rico. So,
but that has nothing to do with the soundtrack. So
no, just a grandfather sitting around. I just find that ironic.
But that's because I look older than both of you.
Well, that's true.
Well, I have one last one.
Yeah.
My wife walked in with pie. That's all. I got excited. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi. She's
Hi.
She's mad at me. She said, "Make sure you put a woman on there because I know those misogynists aren't going to say any women."
Wait a minute. That's not. Shit. That's kind of fucked up. Anyway. That's kind of fucked up, but all right.
Tell her to catch the Steph Askew episode.
Yeah, really.
Well, the next episode you need to listen to.
2 episodes.
She's only basing that on how you met Rico. So to be fair, she doesn't know.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Joke. It's a joke, Rico. Calm down. He's flicking you off, Anna.
I think all men are.
She thinks every man's misogynist. But I have one. I'll do one real quick.
Please.
I know neither of us will. I wasn't gonna do this one but now that we have so many, I'll do one that I know no one else did, and it's Devil's Rejects.
Ooh. Okay. I'm not as familiar with that one, so.
Yeah, by that face, Rico's like, "What the fuck? What did you just say? Why did you say that?" I know this is my dark horse pick, and only because I saw this movie when I first saw it in theaters. I had never seen anything like it. I was like, I think I was 15, 16 at the time, and the opening scene. I don't know if you remember the movie at all.
I haven't seen it, to be fair, so
okay.
I can't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's Rob Zombie.
Yeah, that I know, but I haven't.
It's been a decade for me since I've seen it. So.
Yeah. Well, the movie is not Rob Zombie at all, or the soundtrack. It's all Southern rock. So, like, I'm from Georgia, so it was very interesting to hear these songs that I had heard growing up that were like family songs, kind of in a sense, to then have this blatant violence and just vulgarity, I guess is the best way to put it, and just having the contrast where you have Midnight Riders, the opening song, and then you have this this family escaping from the police, and then the end of the movie, you have Freebird playing, and the only time I've ever enjoyed hearing Freebird was in that scene.
Really?
They're getting murdered in this scene. They're getting pummeled. Sorry, spoiler for a 12-year-old movie.
No, don't worry about it. I won't ever watch it. So.
Yeah, it's very violent, and I mean, it was a very visceral moment to me to see a film like that in theaters and hearing the soundtrack. And I knew that no one would talk about it. So, and it's another film that interjects dialogue in the soundtrack as well, a la Pulp Fiction, which Rob Zombie said influenced it. So,
I'm actually having trouble getting this soundtrack to pop up. I keep getting the score, but I can't get the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe. I mean, I'm not questioning anything you're saying. I just wanted to see it, and I can't get it to come up.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's on. It was like a dual disc. It's on iTunes.
I'm in
just had
iTunes,
it brought up
and it's
earlier.
not coming up. I keep getting Rob Zombie's solo projects and stuff, but I'm not getting the soundtrack.
I don't know.
It's weird.
strange.
But anyway, it's not a big deal. I'm just
Yeah,
It really doesn't want you to listen to music for this movie.
clearly.
but it's kind of like Dazed and Confused, where you have this juxtaposition of what's happening on screen and then what they're actually listening to, and it's similar to the car radio, where there's scenes where you actually see them changing the dial and like adjusting, and then you're hearing the music, and it really was time period too, because it took place between 73 and 75, so the music you're hearing was actually from that time period, which I really enjoyed as well. I thought was fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to say, having heard your whole list at this point, I hate myself for not picking Make Better Choices. But that's neither here nor there at this point.
Well, that's my list. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, do you have any honorable mentions you want to bring up real quick before we move on to one of ours?
Yeah, I had a couple. The Big Chill was one that I really enjoyed as well.
No, immediately disqualified for its being The Big Chill.
Because of that movie? Do you not like that movie?
No, I was just trying to make a very weak link to the line when they're doing a top 5 list, and he picks a song from High Fidelity. They're doing a list, I forget what it was, and he goes immediately disqualification for being Big Chill.
Right. Okay, you're
Sorry,
right.
It's a bad joke.
Okay, I got it. I didn't catch it. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
That's one of mine. One. Yep.
Singles from that time period, grunge. Yeah.
Oh,
and Forrest Gump, which I'm sure we're going to discuss anyways. So
yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, that's my list.
Okay, Rico. So that you can feel part of the conversation, how about you go next?
So I'm not left out like a boy on timeout. So number 1 is Forrest Gump.
No, but it was really hard for me to leave that off of my list, and the only reason why I didn't, there were 2 reasons I didn't. Number 1, I figured one of you two would pick it, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I figured if I left it off my list, it would still get brought up. And then there's some. I picked a couple dark horses, so I wanted to get those in, and I had to sacrifice something to get it. And Forrest Gump was the sacrifice, but it is an amazing soundtrack. It completely opened my world to music that I was not familiar with, or as familiar with, because at that time I was very 90s grunge, 90s metal, and just hovering in that area, and this brought me into Creedence.
None of that.
No, right, exactly, but in the best possible way. So it brought me into Creedence Clearwater, ELO, because I'm pretty sure they're on there. I mean, it's a double disc, and I think it's 40 some odd songs. Like, there's a lot of music on that song. Yeah. But Rico, please, I took your fire.
Let me ask you guys a trivia question. Do you know what the most featured band is for the movie as well as the soundtrack?
I mean, my initial guess would be CCR, but I'm sure that's probably not correct.
That would be mine too. Yeah.
It's the Doors.
Okay.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
The Doors have like 5 songs in the movie, and it's all during the Vietnam period.
Creedence has to be like behind that. Though.
For me, like, I mean, obviously, Forrest Gump is what?
Creedence has to be right behind that. CCR has to be.
I know it's true because when I went to Bubblegum Shrimp, they did the whole trivia thing, so it must be true.
I'm not questioning the validity of your statement. I'm saying this one right behind it has to be Creedence. If that's true, which I'm
It's
Sure it is.
probably
I left the origin of your credits there.
I do, yeah.
Is that from Bubba Gump Shrimp Trivia? That sounds like it's quite the time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I almost didn't pick Forrest Gump because in some ways it's sort of an obvious choice and it's almost like a weird cop-out.
Sure.
But I on a personal level, Forrest Gump was probably one of the first films for me where it went, because it's kind of like an adult kids film. Because it's very innocent, but when you're a kid, you kind of overlook a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like the scene, that shit went over my head. And then you rewatch it as an adult, you're just like, this is a really fucking dark movie.
Yeah.
And like the part where he is in Jenny's dorm and like she shows her boobs and then like you kind of just don't understand why he all of a sudden is apologizing and his head is lightheaded. And you're like, oh, what the fuck is this movie? When I was like 5 years old, I overlooked so much shit. So it was a perfect film for me where it was a transition of, this is kind of a kid's film. It's a beautiful film. It's very interesting. The performances are well acted. And then you can rewatch it again years later and be like, oh shit, this is a completely different film than I initially thought. And the soundtrack is another character. I would
Absolutely.
argue. It is just as integral because it's a historical film, even though it's all bullshit. It's basically, Little Big Man, but modern and not a Western. It's about the most interesting man that you don't know of.
Yeah.
And on another personal level, I have a family friend who is Italian, and he was really interested. Shut the fuck up.
Shocking. That is shocking.
But he was very interested in American music, and my brother, who is his close friend, wanted to give him a clear, good example of what, like a great little mixtape of American music that he could just listen to.
Without question.
And he just gave him soundtrack to Forrest Gump. He said, if you want really like a good soundtrack to American life, this is it. Yeah. And that always kind of stuck a chord with me.
Without question, that was the best choice to do. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
and the musical score on a separate little thing is also very good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're not discussing scores, but there are plenty of good ones out there. We're just choosing not to include them in our conversation.
Yeah, Dustin, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like you said, how it's a very layered film, and you get more of it as you become an adult. Which it's one of those rare like tentpole blockbusters that like really has resonated and affected so many different generations. But I have a friend, for example, who he refuses to accept that Jenny died from AIDS. Like he just doesn't believe it. Like he just thinks, oh, she had cancer. I refuse to accept that she died of AIDS. Like that's just because he saw it as a child and had no idea that was what it was. Seeing as a child, she's sick. Like
I actually read it with hepatitis.
Okay.
Like it wasn't AIDS, which was obviously alluded to, but I think the Zemeckis may have said it was hepatitis.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Which,
I think
I don't know that would have been passed on to Forrest Jr.
Well, with AIDS, it's very rarely transferred to the child, honestly. So.
Yeah.
Like Precious.
I think for the time period the movie came out and for the time period it ends in, even though it's never said, I think the AIDS is the better fit for,
I think that was more for social awareness kind of thing for what was
right, that's what I mean.
Either way, it was still, just like you said, it affects us. And the soundtrack itself is amazing. And I was actually had this conversation earlier because I didn't put them on a list because it was all like the biggest songs you could think of were thrown on there. None of them were like, they were all felt on the nose to me. And they all feel like no one really tried really hard on finding them. They're like, oh, what were the biggest songs from this year? We're going to put it in the movie. Sure, it works. Sure, it's an amazing soundtrack. But for me, for my taste, I like to be more curated. To me, it just felt like here's the top 5 songs from these decades. Put them in the movie.
That's fair. I could see that. I think some of them do fit, but I get your point. No,
they do fit. They do fit. I'm not saying that they aren't curated, but I still feel like it was like here's everything we could throw at it that we know people are gonna like him to get like the fake, stupid goosebump kind of moments from hearing. But that's my take. Well,
I'd like to reiterate. Go ahead.
No, please, Rico.
Well, I was going to say there was one song in particular that stuck out with me, which was Freebird. And I don't know if you guys caught, and I'm not even a real fan of the song. But it was very integral to the character of Jenny, because Jenny keeps making allusions. Like, remember when I wish I was a bird so I could fly far away from this place, when she's like hiding from her dad.
Yeah.
There's a part where she's like coked up and like contemplating jumping off a fucking off a balcony, and the song Freebird is playing, and she's really like it's almost brilliant how they use that little imagery of a free bird, and how she's like, I could be free. I could just jump and I'm free. I won't fly. Well, at least for a second. But, and then also at the end, when after fucking spoiler, Jenny dies, fucking, Forrest is like talking to her grave, and then he walks back and you see birds fly from the fucking tree.
That's true. Yeah.
That is real. I mean, the movie gets a lot of hate for almost being too sappy in some ways. Like, I've talked to people who just say the fucking movie I hate above all that everyone loves is Forrest Gump. And
there's a lot of people who feel that way, yeah.
Point, but at the same time, if you look at it and sort of dissect it, it's a really well thought out film. And one of the biggest departures from book to movie, because the book is really dark.
It is
and really
dark.
Fucked up. Like, he's more like Forrest is more of a real like angry hick in the book. And he is constantly punching people out in the book. And there's a lot of allusion to, especially when the character of Forrest in the book is young, to molestation. Like, there was like someone who was staying at the boarding house that he and his mom ran, and like there was a older woman guest who like gave him his first sexual experience when he was like 10 years old. So the book is really fucking dark. And I don't think they could have done that for the movie. And then even the author, Winston Groom, like, was so unhappy with the production and how his vision turned out on screen that he wrote a sequel called Gump and Company. And the first thing he said on the first line was, never let someone make a movie about your life.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And in the book, the sequel, he even has Forrest Gump meet Tom Hanks.
That probably doesn't go well.
No. I didn't read the sequel, but I remember hearing about that quote at the beginning. So that's my number one.
Okay. Number two.
My number two, I mean, again, we already talked about Pulp Fiction, so that would have been my number two. And I have no particular order for this either. So I'll skip ahead to Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 1.
Yes.
And we did talk about this, and I'm sure we are all kind of like thinking one of us is going to have this, and you're both probably thinking, I'm not going to put it on my list because Rico will.
That's exactly why I didn't do it.
Likewise. Yeah. That was exactly my thinking as well.
And I think we can all kind of agree the reason why I chose it, because it was, for me personally, it was the first time a Marvel film, and I know, Dustin, your mouth is drying out because you don't want to like suck Marvel's dick, but I will leave my mouth up for this because I'm a Marvel fan, because I believe it's marvelous. It is the first Marvel film where the soundtrack is really important, because before all that, they just had scores. And maybe occasionally, an occasional song like an Iron Man, the opening theme, as well as at the end credits, it's Iron Man by Black Sabbath. But this is where the soundtrack, just like I said for Forrest Gump and for Pulp Fiction, it is another character in the film. It is the unofficial member of the Guardians, of the Galaxy.
I would agree.
And it was also a breakthrough where it made the film more exciting, because this film had a whole lot against it, which was characters we really didn't know, a story we could barely fucking really give a shit about because it didn't have Iron Man, it didn't have Hulk, it didn't have Thor. So we're like, who the fuck is Star-Lord? What's this fucking tree thing? Is that raccoon talking? What the fuck is going on? But it was so enjoyable because the soundtrack was so enjoyable. And you guys mentioned Cherry Bomb. That iconic, for me, iconic moment of them walking, looking cool, and also kind of looking stupid, because they're like kind of like picking their. It's not them picking their nose, but them being kind of like being stupid but still cool looking. And the fact that Cherry Bomb is still playing is like, for me, iconic. And I would also say it paved the way where it opened up for something like Thor Ragnarok. You know, Thor Ragnarok is just basically a Thor version of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure.
For me.
No, we've talked about that before, yeah. And you're right. I don't think they get Immigrant Song without the success of the music from the two Guardians movies. Specifically one, but from both of them together.
And for me, Volume 1 had a better soundtrack than Volume 2.
Oh, by far. By far.
And which was such a huge, like, it could also be one of the reasons why I didn't like Volume 2 as much, because the soundtrack was such a letdown.
Well, there's multiple issues with that movie, but anyway, we've ad nauseum that on the MCU. So
that's like a staple for me.
I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack to the second one as well. I listened to both of them very regularly.
No, it's good, but it's not. If you have to line them up, it's still 1 over 2, and it's not because of numerical order. It's a better collection of songs. 2's not bad, but if you have to rank them, I'm going to give you number 1 every time.
I have a similarity you guys may disagree with, but I compare the soundtrack and the work of Guardians to that of Pulp Fiction.
The second one? No,
the first one.
Okay.
Not in the context of what the music is, but we have the same kind of thing where we have our film, What's Happening, and we have them listening to music that was from a different era. We were kind of cheesy, funny, forgotten songs that are then being brought back and being played through to give depth to another somewhat some would call a flat film.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can agree with that. So my next choice is Straight Outta Compton. And
ooh, nicely done, sir.
Nice, yeah.
I chose it because I'm not a real fan of that music or of NWA. But I appreciated the fuck out of the soundtrack. And because it's not, I mean, despite the fact that I'm really interested in biographical films, it was not a subject that I was too into. But my friend has a real big appreciation for late 80s, early 90s hip hop and rap. And he told me, he's like, we have got to see this. This looks amazing. And the movie looks great by the trailer. So I was like really interested. I was more interested in the fact that Ice Cube's son was playing Ice Cube.
Yeah,
that kind of little casting really intrigued me.
Yeah.
And I barely knew anything about the history, so I kind of like Wikipedia'd like NWA and like their music just to familiarize myself while we were in line. When we got tickets, we didn't realize it was opening fucking night. And it was in Oakland.
Oh,
and so we're in line. Well, technically it was Emeryville, but basically same thing.
Right.
And so in line, and it's just a massive fucking line. And we're like, how the fuck are we going to get through this? So the movie starts, and it was like a giant party. The movie itself was great. The soundtrack was fucking great. But this was like the unofficial sing-along that I never experienced in movies. Everyone except me is fucking rapping along and singing along to every fucking song, including my friend. And I look to my left and I'm like, I feel so unbelievably white right now. And like, so sort of like uncultured. And like, this is a whole realm that I just didn't understand. So it was such a big departure of a pick that I would choose. So that's why I chose that one.
First off, I was overly impressed how much I liked that movie. So I lived through, not so much NWA, but the breakup portion and Dre going off on his own and hooking up with Snoop and Ice Cube doing his solo thing and that whole bit. And, you know, leading into Biggie and Pac and that whole thing. So I own some of these albums that these songs come off of. And, you know, so I probably would have fit in with that crowd because I could have gone right along with some of those songs. And the movie surprised me, and the soundtrack. It took me back to a place where I'd forgotten some of the songs. I haven't listened to them in so long. And so to hear some of these songs again and hear them redone, because that was the other thing that I thought was real interesting. It didn't sound like, and maybe you guys know better, but to me, it didn't sound like they took the old recordings and just spliced it in. It sounded like they re-rapped those songs with the actors, including Cube's son.
Absolutely.
Which I think gave it that much more authenticity in terms of the movie, but it also gave it a new life to the music. So yeah, that's a great choice, Rico. Really good choice.
It's a good pull.
Yeah, I pulled that way out of left field. I almost chose 8 Mile because I wanted one to be different, and I believe 8 Mile for me personally is a better film, or just my preference. And the rap for me are more memorable, especially Lose Yourself at the end.
Yeah, well, and that was on my honorable mentions list because that's really the only good song on that soundtrack. I own the soundtrack, and there's not a lot of good rap music on that soundtrack, but that song, despite the fact that it was nominated and won an Oscar, even if it hadn't, it still would be the only good song on that soundtrack. The only other good thing on there are the rap battles from the movie, because they did put those on the soundtrack, but that's it. The rest of it's pretty crap.
That's why I chose Straight Outta Compton. So,
good choice.
8 Mile does get honorable mention for me.
Sure.
So my final pick, I will give one little honorable mention that I almost chose just for the ridiculousness of it, and you guys will probably both laugh. Is Space Jam?
No, there's good music on there. I can't.
That's a fun one. That's one of the top selling albums of all time.
Have you guys rewatched that movie as an adult?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it hold up?
No. Well, there's not. It's an old movie.
It's primarily Michael Jordan.
Look, it's not a great movie. I've never thought that it was a great movie, but I grew up watching Looney Tunes, so seeing those characters in their kind of original format, adding Lola, which is really the only new character, it fit. I mean, it's not great, but
you were in high school when that came out, then, weren't you, CJ?
What year did it come out?
96.
Yeah, I was a sophomore. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been a little old to really enjoy that one, then maybe, or.
Yeah,
so I know, my older friends, they're like, that's a piece of shit. Like,
no, it's not great, and it doesn't hold up to the old original Looney Tunes cartoons you would see on Saturday mornings or whatever, but at least it's close. And personally, that Monstar song, the song that I love that one. I'm sorry. I do like that song a lot.
They also included a little brief bit of Miserlou.
Yes, they do. That is in there.
So I consider that as well. So
wait. It's not just Miserlou. It's a flat out Pulp Fiction reference.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Murray's the best part of that movie. That's all I have to say. As he is the best part of everything.
Well, I can't say everything.
I love Danny DeVito in that.
DeVito?
Oh, yeah, he's the bad guy.
Oh, well, yeah, the voice. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to envision him on screen. I was like...
Yeah.
Well, it kind of looks like him on screen, if we're really being honest.
What's that?
It does kind of look like him on screen.
No, but no, you're right. But I'm trying to actually visualize Danny DeVito at one point. Like, I don't remember ever actually seeing him. You're right. It does. They did.
I think he should have been a live action dressed as a Monstar. I think that would have made the movie a lot better.
That would have been good.
My friend and I are such big fans of Danny DeVito, but we've been casting him in, like, what if they did like a real serious Batman film and like had like Ben Affleck or Christian Bale like be like a real legitimate serious Batman, and then have Danny DeVito play Robin. Oh, like just stupid casting like that, just him in the tights, him in the red and the green, and like we gotta take care of this, Robin. He's like, all right, let's do this, Batman.
Like obviously he agreed to do it, but I hate that M&M's commercial. Like, I'm sure he wanted to do it. He's not in need of money, so it's not like it's a money thing for him. He's got Always Sunny. He's fine. But
what's that? What M&M's commercial?
The one where
a couple of them.
Well, no, it's the same one. They just shortened it. Oh. Yeah, but the red
what is it?
Oh, the red M&M talks about how he's tired of people wanting to eat him all the time. He's constantly wanting people trying to eat him. And he picks up a Heads Up Penny and goes, oh, Heads Up Penny. And then he says something about, I wish people would stop trying to eat me, and he turns into Danny DeVito, wearing the shorts and the shirt that says M on it. Good. I'm sure it's on YouTube. You could probably go watch it there. But he starts running around going, do you want to eat me? Do you want to eat me? Like asking people, and they're all looking at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you short little ugly man? And he's standing in the middle of this...
Hey, be nice.
Well, no, that's what they're looking at him like. I'm not saying that's what I think of him, but that's how they're looking at him. And he's standing in the middle of the street, and he turns to the female M&M who's with him and goes, nobody wants to eat me! And a bus hits him and knocks him into a fruit stand. And that's where the commercial ends. And
they're actually making a whole series now. They're making 3 movies.
With him or different people?
Yeah, Disney's already produced it. I think Joel Schumacher is going to direct it, and then James Gunn's writing them.
Oh my god!
I'm totally fucking with you.
Oh, good, thank God.
I genuinely believed you were
so
being
did
serious.
So did I.
Have you seen? If you want to do weird casting for DeVito, there's a great video floating around, 50 Shades of DeVito, where he's.
I've seen that.
Pretty good. So
I've seen that. I want to see The Passion of the Christ with DeVito, though.
God.
Oh, we've gone off the rails.
Okay, all right. So let me get to my last pick before Dustin has to.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we did. All right. Yeah. Hit the next one.
All right. So Goodfellas, kind of obvious for me, but Goodfellas is for me a soundtrack that has the music that I love. It's got a lot of 50s, 60s, as well as doo-wop, as well as it's got your swing, you got your Sinatra type music, you've got your Bobby Darin. But then because it's 3 decades, you see the music evolve with these characters, specifically with Henry Hill, and how what he does affects the music. So when he starts derailing and becoming addicted to coke and becoming more and more paranoid, you get a little bit more of a rock music kind of grungy, kind of dirty. It's not as livelier as Bobby Darin. It's kind of slowly dying down a little bit, to the extent where you would almost predict that there would be the song My Way by Sinatra during the end credits, but it's Sid Vicious's version, because it went from, hey, Italian-American lifestyle, iconic, swinging, to, okay, we're going to take that song, but we're going to make it as angry and as guttural and as grungy and as rage-fueled and drug-fueled as possible, which is how Scorsese is also another genius when it came to using music for movies, whether it's Casino or Goodfellas or Wolf of Wall Street or whatever the fuck. Tarantino did it better, because Tarantino made the music or the soundtrack a living organism, but Scorsese used it as the blood that fuels the film, or the gasoline, or whatever you want to call it. And
did you join really a dog fighting ring or something? Is there like a gambling thing going on over there?
Is Mike Dick at your house right now? What's going on?
That's
a dated joke. There you go.
Yeah.
12 years later.
You want to come over to me? Dustin?
No, it's my fucking dad's German Shepherd, and I live next to a dog park. So she'll just go outside, look down at the back railing, and just let every other dog know that she's a dog.
Gotcha.
That's all dogs say when they're barking at other dogs is, hey, I'm a dog. Are you a dog? I'm a fucking dog.
Yeah. And Dustin, to your point about it being a dated joke, you got to remember after he got out of jail, he came and played for the Eagles. So that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that hits home a little bit.
The fucking Eagles, man.
What?
I was making a big
is that a Lebowski reference you just did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear him, so that's why,
I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
Oh, jeez.
Sound just like Jeff Bridges. Way to go.
Shut the fuck up, Dustin. It's not my best impression.
Oh, I know. You do have really good impressions. So
he does,
it's a rare bad one. So I had to give you shit on that one.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. Can he be on the show every week?
He's been drowned in the tub.
Whoa, that's good.
Hey, Rico, I like him. Can we keep him?
You can adopt him. I don't care. I'll turn the camera back up so you see that I'm actually just joking.
Yeah, no, I get that. I can't really speak to Goodfellas that well. I've only seen the movie, I think, once. I was just looking at the soundtrack on iTunes, and ironically, that My Way you were talking about is not on the soundtrack itself. I'm sure it's in the movie, and I'm not arguing that fact, but it's not on the soundtrack itself. Much like Sweet Emotion's not on Dazed and Confused, so that's why I'm not going to nitpick over this. Mm-hmm. But I do find that interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just not one I can really speak to very well. But
no, I mean, Scorsese definitely influenced for what Tarantino later did with his films. I mean, there's no denying, even from any aspect, how much influence he had on it. And his music has always been incredible. Everything he's done, I've always enjoyed. All of his scores, especially, are always beautiful. And even Silence, the more recent one, that was a very haunting score as well. But Goodfellas is the epitome Scorsese film, and it's no surprising that that's one of your favorites. I know how much you love that movie, so.
I have another honorable mention. It was the movie Blow.
I haven't seen that. So,
dude, Blow is fucking great. Johnny Depp is like
first half and then turn it off.
What?
I was telling CJ, just watch the first half and turn it off, and you won't be depressed after you see it. Don't worry.
It is kind of a depressing movie, but it's Johnny Depp gives a really great performance, and the soundtrack is also important. And there's a particular scene where Johnny is like sort of catwalking through an airport, and he's kind of strutting along, and the music in the background is Black Betty by Ram Jam.
Oh, I think you brought that up before in something else we talked about.
Strutting to the beat of the music, it fits it very well. So those are overall my picks. And I think CJ, you're gonna go next.
Yeah. Okay, so onto my list. But before we do, I have to correct something I realized I fucked up really bad on a previous episode. We were talking about Dimebag Darrell when he passed away, Rico. We did that a couple episodes back at this point. And for whatever reason, I was listening to it the other day, and I realized that I gave 3 different death dates for the guy over the course of the conversation. Well, not the dates, but the years. I got the years fucked up.
Stop killing him 2 more times.
Yeah, right. So I at one point I said 2005, another point I said 2003. So none of those are right. The actual date.
Can I guess what year it was?
Yeah, please. I got the exact date, but please.
Okay, I vaguely remember. Was it like 2008?
No.
Okay. I don't remember then.
It is. You've got I think you've got yourself just backwards because it's December 8th, 2004.
Oh, okay. That was earlier than I thought it was. Okay.
But you probably have the 8 from the December 8 part, and that's how you got to the 08 thing. So, but I've just got such love for Pantera and Dimebag and that whole family that I felt like I owed them to get that correct.
Yeah, you're an awful fan for not knowing that off the top of your head.
No, you know what it was? It was. Yeah, I'm terrible. No, but in all seriousness, I think it was just I got caught up in the story and the bulk of what happened to him as opposed to the date. But I wanted to fix that. So anyway, so the first thing I'm going to say about my list before I get into the actual items is that there were 2 things I immediately DQ'd for myself. And that is Metallica's 2 movies. Because here's the thing. I am such a big fan of Metallica, they'd immediately take 1 and 2. And here's why they don't count. None of them are new original music. It's all stuff from their album catalog. Because the one is the documentary, Some Kind of Monster. And it's just catalog music from their albums. And then the other one is that really ill-fated Through the Never movie that they made 6 years ago, I want to say, where it was supposed to be a movie, and it ended up really just being a concert video with a bunch of cutscenes in the middle. And again, it was just them playing everything from their albums. So I don't really feel like those should count. So I'm immediately disqualifying them from my list. They don't even really get. What's that?
I agree. They should be disqualified.
Right. If they were new music, if there was new music specifically for either one of those movies, then I could say maybe an honorable mention or something, but they're not, so.
No, because they're pretty awful, so you shouldn't have them even honorary.
Oh, it's on.
Oh, you know what? We just got to stop the episode right there. I don't even want to continue at this point. Like, no. We're done.
Yeah,
good night, everybody.
Dustin, you're banned from the PodAskew.
Yeah, you're not even allowed to listen anymore. That's how bad that was.
They were really good.
Yeah. So, ow, that hurt my soul.
You became the devil reject.
Yeah. Nicely done, sir. Nice pullback. All right. So,
hold on. Before we continue, actually, I want to talk about Dustin, because you talk about Rob Zombie. And I just rewatched his Halloween movies. They are fucking terrible.
They are really bad.
Like, really? The Halloween 2 was really bad.
It was atrocious. Now, when I'm talking about Devil's Rejects, I've never said I thought that was a great film or a good film.
You just like the soundtrack.
The soundtrack I just really enjoyed. And it made the movie what should have been really god-awful. It made the movie mediocre, but it was the soundtrack that was like the only like really strong aspect of that film.
And that might be.
I know you were doing it. It was just weird that I also happened to just watch Halloween 1 and 2. I was going through a Halloween resurgence, I guess, because of the new trailer for the new one.
Yeah.
So I was like rewatching. That was great. But like I was trying to like validate the Rob Zombie remake, and the remake is fine as it is, but he really pushes the sort of hillbilly white trash shit super much, especially in the Halloween mythos. And I just don't think it fits. Anyways, that's a whole other fucking conversation. CJ, go with your list.
Well, two things I want to say to that, because I think they're both important. Number one, I saw part of the first one, and it looked kind of interesting. It made me actually interested in a Halloween movie, because Rico, those aren't my style of movies. We've talked about that. So I'm not saying it's going to be a great film, but it did interest me in wanting to see the rest of it. So that's number one. Number two, maybe before we end this thing, depending on how long it takes to go through my list and some of the honorable mentions I have, we should talk quickly about can a good soundtrack save a bad movie? Because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so there's things we can get into. So I'm going to go... I didn't really put them in any order, but neither did you guys, so I don't feel so shitty about that. Because I thought we were going to order them, and it turned out, well, maybe you did, Dustin, but Rico, I know you said you didn't, so, and that's fine. So, one of the first ones on my list is one we've already kind of talked ad nauseum, and that's High Fidelity. So we already kind of covered that, but you have to figure that's going to be on my list, especially considering I'm basically John Cusack's character in that fucking movie. So, and I know I told the stories earlier on, so I don't need to get into that. So, the next one I would probably bring up, I'm trying to think about which one I want to go with next. I'll go with this one next, because I don't think it's going to generate a whole lot of conversation. That would be Rockstar.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
The movie with Mark Wahlberg, because Rico, you're looking kind of confused.
No, I was trying to remember. I'm like, is that the one with fucking Marky Mark?
Yeah,
I never saw it.
That's why that's why you got to take a beat.
Yeah. So it's a nice throwback to 80s metal music, and not 80s hair metal, but it's got a little bit in it because they do tease things out all of it, like, but it's not like fucking Twisted Sister or Warrant or one of those bands. So it's a little more like it's loosely based on what actually happened to Judas Priest, with Rob Halford being kicked out of the band for being gay. So,
is Marky Mark's character gay in the movie?
No, the guy he replaces is gay, and he leaves the band. Now, the difference is, I think, and Dustin, I know you know your music trivia almost as well as I do, if not better, but was Halford kicked out of Priest, or did he leave voluntarily? I don't really know the background on that. I should have looked it up, but I didn't.
So I don't really recall. I kind of was just, when you brought up Rockstar, I had to think for a second, like, what band was it that movie was based off of? And I had totally forgot. I knew it was one of those one of those bands, and
it's definitely Priest. I know that, but
yeah, it's definitely Judas.
Okay, well, it's not a big deal. I was just curious. I thought you might know off the top of your head. So, Rico, the basic premise behind it is, this guy is the lead singer of a tribute band of this fictitious band called Steel Dragon, and they do this. They go around doing these tribute shows, and at some point, there's rumors going around that the lead singer of the real Steel Dragon is leaving the band. They don't get into it in the quote-unquote public eye, but the band starts auditioning new singers, and they catch a wind of this kid, Marky Mark's character, and they bring him in for an audition, and he hits every note because he was obsessed with hitting every note. So he hits every note. He looks like him. He wears the hair the same way. He even got his nipple pierced when the lead singer did to stay within the character. So he takes on that role, and he ends up joining the band. And they don't really say how much time passes, but he's with the band for at least a year. Now, the real story, the guy who took over for Priest, it's the same situation. I don't remember his name right now, but he was in a Priest tribute band. They heard his vocals. They brought him on board, but he was with the band for years, and I think you can back me up on that one at least, Dustin. It's not...
Then Rob Halford was in there with the reunion, too.
Right, well, no, the guy, when Halford came back, he left, but he was with Priest for a number of years. It wasn't like a one-year thing like it was in Rockstar.
Yeah.
But the reason for the soundtrack is there's 4 or 5 Steel Dragon originals in the soundtrack, and they're all great songs because they're being played by real musicians. So the drummer in Steel Dragon is Jason Bonham, who is John Bonham's son from Led Zeppelin. The guitar player is Zakk Wylde, who is one of the greatest guitar players ever. The bass player is an actor, so I don't know who is playing bass on the music. And then the singer, I forget who was doing the vocals for him, but it's a couple people filling in for Marky Mark, depending on what song they're doing, because there's a ballad type song, which is an amazing song, and then there's more of like heavy metal type songs. But they do the whole thing, and then... real quick trivia piece for you, Dustin. How well do you remember the movie?
Oh, I hated that movie.
Okay, fair enough.
I saw it like once when it came out, and I was not even a teenager when it came out, and I didn't care for it. But yeah, I would recommend. I've never seen it on like TNT all the time.
I would recommend going back at it with adult eyes. Number one,
okay,
you might.
All right.
As an appreciator of music, it's not a great movie. I will not sit here and tell you it is, but as an appreciator of music, it's a great window into that time period, and it's fun from that perspective, if that makes sense. But at the end of the movie, spoilers for people who might watch this thing, Marky Mark's character decides he doesn't want to do it anymore, and he pulls some kid out of the audience to take his place, literally on stage that night, and he just walks away. Do you remember that part, Dustin?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't.
Here's the interesting thing about that, a trivia piece for that. The guy he pulls out off the crowd is Miles Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
And it's who's actually a real singer, Rico, if you're not familiar with his name. He's been in several bands, Slash a Snake Pit, Alter Bridge. He's got another band too, doesn't he, Dustin? Do you remember?
Miles Kennedy?
Yeah.
The Mayfield 4 was like one of them, I remember.
Yeah, maybe. There was another bigger one. But anyway, that's not the point. But they bring in a real singer in at some point, actually. And I think he did do some of the vocals for the recordings for the songs on the soundtrack. So... it's just a fun, again, it's not a great movie. I own it because I enjoy watching for the music and the time period and that whole thing. So.
How was Mark's vocals?
He didn't sing. That's what I'm saying. They had a whole bunch of other singers and he lip synced throughout all of it. He didn't do any vocals.
I really remember Timothy Ollie Fantastic in that movie.
He's
I just remember him doing that stupid one face that he's only capable of doing.
Clearly, you don't like him either.
He's great. I do. I like Justified a lot. He's a fine actor. Tim Owens. Tim the Ripper Owens. That's the guy who replaced Rob in Judas Priest.
The real story. Yes, thank you.
All right,
yeah, I appreciate
it. He was not kicked out of the band. He left on his own accord.
Right.
He sued the label for something. I don't know why.
Who? Halford or Owens?
Alfred.
Oh, Alfred. Okay.
I like how we all refer to Timothy Olyphantastic as Timothy Olyphantastic based on that's the nickname Kevin Smith gave him.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, so this is new to me, honestly.
When he talked about working on Live Free or Die Hard.
Okay.
Well, they were also on Catch and Release together.
I need to see that.
On a movie together.
Jennifer Garner movie.
And he describes Timothy as like sort of a bully.
Really?
Well, I think we just froze.
Because he's in two movies I love that are not music movies real quick, but he's
The Girl Next Door.
What?
The Girl Next Door.
No.
That is a great fucking movie.
Is it? I've never seen that one. He's in
I mean, the movie's fun, but he's great in it.
Okay, well, keep in mind, I'm not as much of a film and cinema guy like you guys are, so these are probably not great movies. No, but I'm saying the movies I'm going to say are probably not... You're going to both probably roll your eyes and be like, really? But he plays Hitman in the first Hitman movie they did, which I liked. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
God, it's such a bad
I've only fallen asleep in a movie as an adult, and it was Hitman. That's the only film I've ever fallen asleep during.
I like the game. I play the game. I enjoy the series.
I like Tetris.
I like the game, though.
A movie off of it. Jesus.
What did you say, Rico?
I said it's not really like the game, though. I mean,
it's better than the second one that they made.
It's a better video game adaptation than Marky Mark's Max Payne. That was fucking atrocious.
That was terrible. Anything.
Yeah. And then the other one.
That's really the first time I walked out of a movie where I was just like silent from I can't believe that movie exists.
All right. Well, the second movie he's in that I really love is Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
And
I mean, that's a fine movie, but I don't know if it was really because of him. That was just entertaining.
Also, that movie had a pretty good soundtrack.
Yeah, it did. It did. It could fall in an honorable mention. I wouldn't put it on my list, but yeah, he's got one of my favorite lines in movie history. And again, it's not a great line, but it just makes me laugh every time I think about it. And there's a car chase scene with Eleanor, the Mustang, towards the end. And at one point, he's racing against time, basically against a wrecking ball, trying to avoid getting hit by it. But the cop car does get hit by the wrecking ball and gets put through the wall. And Timothy Olyphant's character runs over to him and goes, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you sure? Because you just went through a wall." And the way he delivers it just makes me laugh every time I think about it. He
does that kind of side kind of smile when he's joking, his smirk, and he does deliver rye very well. He does do that.
And
he's the cop in that movie.
Yes, he's the main detective's partner. I can't remember the guy's name, but
Drycock, Detective Drycock.
Yeah, okay, that's not it, but that's what he's called.
It was Drycock.
Is that his name?
Yeah, Drycock.
Even when he's in Scream 2, I actually liked his performance in Scream 2.
I've never seen that, so
he's kind of I always imagined it what if Tarantino went crazier, because he kind of he's got this kind of Quentin Tarantino way of speaking, and it's like if Quentin Tarantino became a slasher, just became a serial killer, is how I look at his performance in Scream 2.
Okay.
Also, am I the only one who fucking thinks that he looks like he could be Billy Bob Thornton's son?
Tim the Elephant?
Maybe.
Yeah. Dude, I look at him and fucking Billy Bob Thornton and Humphrey Bogart, and I swear they could all be I'm telling you, dude, look at them again. They all have similar fucking features. They all look like they could be related.
We have gone so far off the rails into left field. And can I bring
this is what you get.
That's what I get. What, for bringing up... I'm not even the one that brought up Timothy Olyphant. Dustin did.
Yeah, Dustin, this is your fucking fault.
You bring it up. All right, so we're talking about Rockstar. That's
well,
fine.
I'm kind of done with it now.
Oh, thank God.
The next one I'm going to bring up, and Dustin and I kind of talked about this a little bit offline before we ever started the episode, so I know he's going to bust my chops a little bit, is Across the Universe, which the reason this made my list is because prior to seeing this movie, I was not big capital letters, a Beatles fan. Did not like them, thought they were stupid, hated the music, just didn't like anything about them.
You thought the Beatles were stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, but then I saw the movie, and I guess it's because I got another interpretation of the songs. It made me want to go back and hear the originals. It gave me a different appreciation for the songs and made me really want to go back and hear them again. So, I did.
I agree. That film really was like, because it came out, what, 2007, I think?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So that's right when, like, Rico and I were in high school, graduating high school. So, I mean, our generation was really getting exposed to the Beatles at a whole different level. So the movie did do wonders for bringing a whole new generation to make the Beatles fans otherwise are probably like you, just like, I don't like the Beatles. They're poppy and they're not fun and I can't really relate to them. But so, yeah, I agree with you. I hate Jim Sturgis, but it was a fine movie because Evan Rachel was amazing.
Oh, God. So that's going to destroy another one of my movies. Not from the soundtracks, but in general, because I love 21.
Oh, 21's a fine movie because of that horrible human being was in it, Kevin Spacey.
Well, yeah, so. but why don't you like Jim Sturgis? What the hell's wrong with him?
I don't know. He just bugs me.
Okay.
He's like crappy pouty. Like, I don't know. He looks like a sad dog all the time. He's like, oh, I just
a young
don't like
dog.
him. I don't like him.
All right.
He's
but
like Andrew Garfield. I don't like either of them.
We were just talking about Andrew Garfield with the Spider-Man episode. So, no, it's fine. We lost all that. That's just going to be gone. But yeah, I like I said, it made me listen to the Beatles songs again, and now I love them. I will say, as most people who are big fans of the Beatles and know their history, there's really two eras of the Beatles. There's that Fab Four pop, all the women love them because of the haircuts and the, what was the show? The variety show they were on in America. Everyone does the imitation of the guy. Jesus Christ, why can't I think of this?
Oh, no, not Johnny Carson. It was the other guy, the guy who also did the Doors.
Got a really good shoe. He's even in Pulp Fiction. It's a guy who's the maitre d' from Jack Rabbit Slims.
Sorry, Buddy Holly?
No, he was the waiter.
No, the guy who introduces them.
Oh, Jesus.
Fuck. Is it Ed something?
Ed Sullivan? Yes, thank you. Ed Sullivan Show. So, thank you. I mean, so there's that era of the Beatles, and then there's they grew their hair out, they had the beards, and they did, like the White Album, and a lot of this other...
Because they were fucked up on LSD.
What's that?
Because they were on so much LSD at that time period.
Yeah, they did some drugs and whatever, but
it's... some drugs. They did all of the drugs.
They did all the drugs, CJ.
But, I mean, I have a whole new appreciation for that group. I really, truly do, and like you were saying, Dustin, Across the Universe was kind of my gateway to that. So that's why that soundtrack holds a special meaning for me.
It was sort of your gateway drug.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way. I was trying not to go there, but
see, CJ, I'm in agreement with you when it came to the Beatles. Like, I prefer the younger Beatles as opposed to the older Beatles. Like, I like their early '60s shit because it was more. I don't know. Once they started singing about fucking walruses and fucking
the Walrus is my
shit,
favorite.
I just did not care. I'm not overly fond of like the overly hippy dippy shit. But
so we're
when
reversed.
They were just like when they were doing fucking Hard Day's Night and Twist and Shout and shit like that. That's really what I appreciate was the younger shit.
So what you're saying is the farther they got away from the Rat Pack, the less you like them.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, that was the best.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I'm also just not a fan of like hippie kind of music in general. That's how I've likened their later shit was.
So,
I mean, I'm mad. What?
I was going to say, so once they hooked up with Charles Manson, that's when you were kind of done with him.
Yeah,
Well,
I think Charles Manson definitely did not help the Beatles. I will say that for the movie Across the Universe, even though like it was sort of me diving into a whole subject of music that I was like, I don't really give a shit about. Evan Rachel Wood was amazing in it.
Yeah.
And honestly, Eddie Izzard has one of the greatest fucking like roles in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Eddie Izzard scene, even if I'm not a fan of that type of music that they did, that is a fucking like just a phenomenal role he did.
Yeah, Bono did a really good cameo too, if you remember.
I mean, I haven't seen Across the Universe more than twice, and I think the last time I saw it was probably like 5 years ago. So, what are you shaking your head for?
Because you should have seen it more recently.
Don't be judging me. Want to talk about the shit you should have seen recently?
Well, that's fair. Okay. Moving on. I'm glad that brought you through a little bit too. It's just, I don't know. And that's why I wanted to differentiate or define where we were putting musicals on these lists, because that is such a powerful movie for me. But I understand the line that we set up where if it had been on stage, and fortunately for me, Across the Universe was never on stage. It went right to the screen. So,
fortunately,
which is weird because it kind of looks like a fight.
Well, yeah, it looked like and look, let's be fair. It may have had some stage time somewhere, but I think we were defining it as like a strong Broadway run versus like some third-rate theater off in Bumblefuck.
Yeah. Bumblefuck is renowned for its productions. To be fair,
that's true. Yeah, I forgot.
It's like
Bumblefuck has got
So
Bumblefuck has got the best stage productions ever. Okay.
All right, I'll have to go there and see a show. The next one I want to bring up is the reason I pick soundtracks for movies in general that I like is because if I then hear a song from that soundtrack, it takes me back to the movie. It takes me to that moment, either when I was watching it or just that moment in the movie that I love. And so for me, the next one is Almost Famous. I love that movie. And maybe, if I was going to rank these, it may be the best of the five. But I'd
say from your list, that's number one.
It's hard to put up against High Fidelity, because that would be close number one as well. I mean, they're equally as good, I think.
Oh, I forgot you had High Fidelity on that list, yeah.
Yeah. But, anytime I hear Tiny Dancer, it takes me right to that scene on the bus when they're all pissed off at each other at the beginning, and by the end of it, they're all singing together. And I'm not an Elton John fan. I'm still not an Elton John fan, but I love that fucking song. It does.
I think that was kind of the point, too. That, obviously. So, I mean, like, yeah, it was making fun of it. And what was the band? Stillwater? Was that the name of the band?
Right, Stillwater. And what's great about Stillwater is there's actually a couple of the Stillwater songs on the soundtrack. Especially Fever Dog, which I love.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Fever Dog is a great song. Some of the other ones are on there, but Fever Dog's the only one I remember off the top of my head. And considering just tying it back to High Fidelity for a second, I'm almost positive Peter Frampton wrote most of the Stillwater's music.
Sounds about right.
So,
are you going to see the Elton John movie they're making?
Am I going to see it?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, if it's on HBO or one of those channels, I'll probably watch it, or Netflix or something, but I won't go see it.
The guy who played Eggsy in Kingsman is going to play Elton John.
I could see that. Well, he was in Kingsman: The Golden Circle.
Right.
So
I think they like, once they work together, it's like, you want to play me in a movie? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
And also, he like that fucking kid is actually like a well-trained singer. Like I only saw part of the movie sing, that animated movie, but he like plays the gorilla or something.
I do like that.
He actually has like a wide range.
Oh, I hate you.
So I just remembered I have this in my collection right here behind us.
That is awesome. So what are some of the other songs? You've got the list right there.
All right, so this is Stillwater's. This is what's the name of this album? I always forget this one.
Self-titled, I think.
Yeah, it is self-titled.
Yeah.
It's Stillwater. You have April Love, Out on a Limb, Sunshine Blues, Fantasy Park, Sam's Jam, Mindbender, Rock and Roll Loser, Universal Fool.
Why isn't Fever Dog on there?
Well, they had multiple albums.
Well, they're not. Did they have more than one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Well, they're not real band for one.
No, Stillwater's a real band. There's a real band, Stillwater.
Right, but the Stillwater from the movie is a fictitious band. Even Cameron Crowe says that. Or it's James Cameron.
Cameron Crowe?
Oh, it is Cameron Crowe. I was right first. I'm sorry. Yeah. I always get well, they're both Camerons. Leave me the fuck alone.
Cameron
Stillwater was also a real band in the late 70s from Georgia, from Warner Robins.
Oh, okay. Well, that I didn't know, but this Stillwater in the band is fictitious. So
that's your neck of the woods, right, Dustin?
Not Warner Robins, but Georgia. Yeah, I grew up in Georgia.
Yeah.
So
close enough.
Yeah.
But that was one that I really, that the music's right of a time period. My mom always told me I was born 20 years too late, or about 10 years too late. That I should have actually been around more for that period of time. I would have fit in better musically speaking. But then again, where medicine is, I would have been a drooling lump in a corner because of my disability. So I'll take the trade-off. So,
I mean, so one thing you can say about Cameron Crowe, as bad as his shit gets, like with Elizabethtown and the creation of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl and all that crap, he always has amazing soundtracks. And I mean, because it's based off his life, right? Wasn't he originally hired for Rolling Stones and when he was a kid and stuff?
And at that age, he pulled the same thing that William Miller pulls off. He was that young. So
yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, it comes off, too, because the movie was nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think most people would agree that's probably his finest film.
And I think it was earlier this episode we talked about directors.
Fair, I don't remember.
Go ahead, Rico.
I was going to say, to be fair, I don't remember the soundtrack for Jerry Maguire being that memorable, though.
There's a handful of songs on it, but it does. I don't think he's saying every one of their Cameron Crowe's soundtracks.
Vanilla Sky was amazing. The Vanilla Sky had an amazing soundtrack.
I'd have to look that one up again.
I'm thinking Elizabethtown.
Was better.
What was that?
The soundtrack was better than the movie for Vanilla Sky. Actually, for being really honest, the original Spanish film was way better.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation to discuss Vanilla Sky, because I could talk about Vanilla Sky for 2 hours. But yeah, it's a movie that people are really torn over. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I've only seen it once. I need to see it again.
Performance, but otherwise I didn't like the movie.
I mean, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, come on. That's like an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, but Almost Famous, earlier on we were talking about director's cuts of movies, and this is one that's not as good. Like, I had like a special edition regular DVD of Almost Famous because I bought it when it first came out, and I watched it to the death, and it was fine. But then I saw a director's cut on Blu-ray, and went with the general rule that director's cuts are generally better. And so I bought the Blu-ray and traded my DVD copy to a local store out here called Tunes, that you can sell DVD, CDs, and things like that too. And I watched the director's cut, and it sucks. And there's not the theatrical version on the disc, so I'm stuck with this director's cut unless I decide to buy another copy of the movie at some point.
Cameron Crowe is such a weird enigma because he's so hit or miss, and I think he's one of those directors he does better when the studio intervenes. It seems like. I mean, Jerry Maguire is an amazing movie, and it's a very studio movie, and he did an incredible job with that. And we're just talking about his soundtracks. He also did Singles, which is another incredible soundtrack movie, Singles, which I think has been on a lot of top 10 lists as well. So,
Rico, wasn't on your honorable mentions, I thought, or one of yours. I thought Singles came up earlier.
It was probably on mine. And then, that was probably mine. Because that was a good year, 94, I think, when that was. But yeah, he did Say Anything as well. I mean, it was Allman Brothers was the band that he toured with.
It's not the only band, but yeah.
That was the first band, so that was the band that Stillwater, the fake Stillwater, is based
No,
off
they're actually, because I've really researched this movie. It's a conglomeration of all the bands he's ever toured with. He took them all, put them in together one like big shit pile, and turned it into Stillwater.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then Allman Brothers they're from the South, and in quotes from the South, and then Stillwater, the actual Stillwater band being from Georgia too. I feel like it's kind of there's a lot to be said with it. But yeah,
right.
Great movie.
No, it's a fantastic movie, and I love multiple things about it that I could talk about for hours. I mean, I really like you. I could do that movie just by itself.
Yeah, it's a good one. My sister is probably pissed that I didn't put Almost Famous on it. My oldest sister, she's like, that's one of her favorite movies.
It's one of mine too, so I can respect that. And
if you guys remember, I still haven't seen it.
Well, there's problems there. You need to see this movie.
You got to see it because Kate Hudson is naked the entire movie, and she's literally doing coke off of Billy Crusher's penis in like 5 different scenes.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes on for like a good 20 minutes.
Well, I have to stop by the video room to get my check. I might as well fucking pick that up on that.
Yeah, and then you see Patrick Fugit's penis. The thing is like a horse dick. It's crazy.
Puts Liam Neeson in shame.
It really does. You're right.
His dick is so long it's got an elbow.
Yep. It's like a baby arm.
Once a year it sheds its foreskin.
You do realize there's like 60% of bullshit and all that.
Of course.
No, he's right though. She is naked a lot in that movie. You definitely see, it's not full frontal. I think she's wearing underwear, but you definitely see the upper half.
I do think that's the only Kate Hudson movie that I enjoy her in. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that I've liked her as an actress in.
I think it's the only movie I've seen her in, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
I remember she was in some, I don't remember what it was. I think it was a movie with Dane Cook or something.
Oh,
I
okay.
remember.
Well, that's the first problem right there. She's starting with Dane Cook. Because that guy's just
hey, you know what? Dane Cook made one good movie, and Dustin, I recommended it to you. Remember, you'd already seen it. It was Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Brooks, the Kevin Costner movie? Yeah, I didn't like that movie, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, let's not go there.
I'm
going to move on with my list. Now, this next one is really more about just being in my wheelhouse, musically speaking, and what I like about it, and the story behind the soundtrack. And that is The Queen of the Damned.
I knew that was going to be a topic of this conversation. I fucking can't believe, like, oh, God, it's such a bad movie.
I'm not saying the movie's not good. I'm not saying the movie is good.
Oh, that's funny you bring that up. Rico, wasn't you just have a customer who one of her songs was in that movie?
Yeah, fucking Julie Carfagna.
Who?
Yes, I have a customer who is actually part of a band called Kitka.
You're breaking up a lot. I can't hear you. What's the name of the band?
Kitka.
Still breaking up.
Kitka.
Kitka?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the weird thing is, a million years ago, she worked at my parents' restaurant, and she sort of was like an unofficial babysitter for me when I was like in the restaurant when I was like 2. So she's very friendly, and her, she's got an Italian last name. So I was telling my dad, I'm like, I've got this customer who's super. Shut the fuck up, CJ. I got this fucking customer who's super friendly and super nice. And her last name is Grafania. And my dad, who forgets my fucking name, like he's called me Gypsy, which is a dog we had 20 years ago. Like, Gypsy, go to your, I'm like, what? He said, Grafania? I know her. I'm like, oh yeah, every Italian knows every Italian. Is that what you're fucking saying? Like, no, she worked at the restaurant. So I knew her before she realized who the fuck I was. And I had an old photo on my cell phone. And I went up to her and said, excuse me, do you recognize this small kid? And she's just like, no. And I'm like, do you remember Ron and Nancy DiGiorgio from way back? She's like, oh my God, are you Rico? And I'm like, yep. So ever since then, I mean, that was 4 years ago, I've been, getting to know her and her family and everything. And she just revealed the other day that she had supplied some tracks on the soundtrack for Queen of the Damned.
Well, it's
and when she told me, I said, That must be like one of the worst royalty checks you must get.
There's no Kit Kat on this soundtrack list, so I'm not sure what she supplied it for. But before we go anywhere,
I don't know.
Before we go anywhere, Dustin just pulled out a very, very impressive decanter, and I want to know what the fuck was in it.
Oh, I have several decanters.
Well, I only saw the one, but that was pretty damn impressive.
That one's whiskey.
What style? Like what?
What I think that one I have makers in.
Okay. I'm trying to get Rico likes Jack Daniel's honey. I'm trying to improve his taste.
No. That's not okay. That's not okay.
That's what I see.
You guys will be impressed to know that I drank a ton of whiskey last night, and it wasn't Jack Daniel's honey.
What did you drink last night? If it wasn't,
I don't remember. I'll text Michael now.
That's a bad sign.
That's a bad sign.
I didn't buy it. So, but I definitely drank it enough of it.
All right. Well, we'll shelve the whiskey discussion.
Go buy some Old Granddad. It's inexpensive, Rico. You'll enjoy it. It's a good one.
I'd rather go Canadian, but that's me.
Well, I'm from the South. What do you expect?
Yeah, gotcha. All right. So
I'd like to pull what our president does, which is have vodka fluid flowing down his lips.
What was that?
Like Russian. I want to pull what Trump does and just have like Russian fluid pass through his lips. That's what I do.
Yeah, but he's not drinking vodka. He's sucking semen. There's a difference.
Not the Russians. It's not. Yeah.
What? Your lag is terrible
making
again.
a joke that Russians drink so much vodka that their semen is vodka.
Oh,
that's his joke.
Yeah, well, he's breaking up real bad. Anyway, I'm moving on.
Please.
Jesus Christ. This might be our worst episode ever.
I blame Dustin.
You blame Dustin. No, why I like this. So I agree with you. The movie's not good. It's not good. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it is a good movie. It's not a good movie. But the music from the movie, and this, as I brought up earlier, you can have a good soundtrack from a shit movie, and this is one of them. First off, the story behind it is really interesting because Jonathan Davis wrote all the songs that the band from the movie plays. However, in his contract at the time with the record label they were with, he was contractually not allowed to put his voice on any other recordings the year the Korn was putting out a new album. And that same year the movie came out, they put out, I believe, the Issues album. So he was not allowed to record the songs on the soundtrack. So in the movie, when you see Lestat singing the songs, it's Jonathan Davis's voice. But on the soundtrack, he had to bring in guest singers. You guys look both bored to tears. I'm serious.
I'm looking up the soundtrack. I'm just trying to
I don't recall the movie. This is what, 2002, 2003 this came out?
Yeah, give or take. 2001, I think.
No, well, according to the soundtrack, it's 2002, and I'm assuming that came out the same year as the movie, so.
Yeah.
2001. Boom.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie. Was Stuart Townsend? Was he the?
Yes, he played Lestat.
Yeah.
And then the lead, she passed away. Was it Aaliyah? Is that?
No, the lead I think is still alive.
Oh, who was that time period passed away? Aaliyah.
What?
She died. No,
Aaliyah
died.
Oh, Aaliyah. I thought you said
plane crash, I believe.
Yeah, it was a plane crash. I thought you were talking about that short girl he ends up with at the end who is investigating the vampires the whole way through the movie.
No.
The connection's bad tonight. I don't know. We were good earlier, and now I'm losing you guys. I don't know.
Okay. Sorry.
So no, it's not your fault.
I have the track listing in front of me.
But you do bring up a good point of like movies that are bad that have great soundtracks.
All right. Well, I want to get into some of the guests on this real quick before we get into that bigger topic. But he, because like I said, he wasn't allowed to sing on the soundtrack, so he got Wayne Static to do a song. He did the vocals. So it's Korn playing the music, but it's these different artists doing the vocals. Wayne Static from Static X is on one song called Not Meant For Me. David Draymond from Disturbed does one of them. The next one, Chester Bennington does System. What's that? Of Linkin Park, yeah. And then Jay Gordon for Orgy. Which of those four
Marilyn
bands...
Manson does one as well.
What's that? No, Marilyn Manson. That's not him singing a Korn song. That's a Marilyn Manson song.
Oh well, no, it's written by Jonathan Davis.
Redeemer?
It's Redeemer. Yeah,
okay, maybe
it's
I got
written
my
by
answer
him.
wrong. All right, well then then it's the 5. I was always told that was a Manson song.
Also, Alanis Morissette apparently did something.
Not on this soundtrack.
It says "Excess" featuring Alanis Morissette, written by Tricky and performed by Tricky.
Okay, yeah, the band is Tricky. Maybe she's got a vocal on it. Yeah, but she's not. This is my list, damn it. No.
Oh.
No, it's all right. But just those, especially those first 3 songs with Wayne Static, David Draymond, and Chester Bennington, them filling in for Jonathan Davis, and they do it in the style of Korn, so it's them really jumping out of their comfort zone and kind of trying to jump into Jonathan Davis' shoes, and they do an amazing job with it. That Chester thing, I mean, no pun intended, but it used to haunt me, period, just because of how good it was, and now it's going to haunt me for a much different reason because of what's happened. But and same with the Wayne Static, because Wayne Static died 2 years ago at this point, I think it is. So the only one left from that group is David Draymond, and I mean Jay Gordon's still alive, but Orgy doesn't exist. I don't even think they're performing anymore. So. But it's a good heavy metal soundtrack. People who are heavy metal fans tend to gravitate to this soundtrack, even if they don't like the movie, just because of the song. Because you've got, so aside from the songs written by Jonathan Davis, you have the Deftones, Godhead, Papa Roach, Static X has their own song on here, along with the one Wayne Static did. You got the Kidney Thieves. So you got a lot of good rock music on here anyway. Outside, I don't like the Deftones, but I know a lot of people do, especially the song that's on here, which is "Change in the House of Flies." A lot of people love that song. I like the song, yeah. I don't like the Deftones. Chino Marino is a douchebag as far as I'm concerned. So
that's a valid point.
I just can't stand them. Yeah. So like I was saying, I use it as a good heavy metal soundtrack. I mean, if you're a heavy metal fan, that's the way to go. And when I used to work at Sam Goody, that was if people were looking for a good metal collection, I would send them to that soundtrack. And they would say, and sometimes they'd ask me, is the movie good? I'm like, it's okay. I think it's okay. Is it great? No. I'm not even going to, and I can't defend it in a lot of ways. And the fact that it's linked to Interview is sad for Interview. But, Rico, you're looking weird. Why weird?
I just look weird.
Well, yes, you do, but you had that look like you were confuzzled by something I said.
I'm just trying to rationalize it as a good movie, because I'm trying to think if it's because it's weird. I just rewatched Interview with the Vampire,
right?
And I'm just kind of like on the fence about that as well, because I loved it when I was a kid, and now I'm like kind of like, wow, this is not as good as I remember. Brad Pitt's atrocious in it. I mean, I can't believe I have to say Tom Cruise is actually really good in it.
Because Tom Cruise is good. He's a good actor.
Thank you. I felt like I was the only person that felt that way. Or are you just being sarcastic?
Incredibly charming and easy to watch actor. He makes some bad movies like The Mummy, but also
if you remember what I said, I said he can be really good when he's actually acting. Like one of my favorite performances is his in Rain Man. Because Dustin Hoffman has the showy role. I mean, he's got the harder role, but Tom Cruise has to be the straight man, and he's full of crazy emotion, and plus he actually progresses throughout the film. Whereas Dustin Hoffman's character plays Rain Man from beginning to end. He doesn't. So I'm saying Tom Cruise can be a great actor when he's actually trying to act, but when he's doing his usual fucking Mission Impossible type role, it's not great for me.
I love the Mission Impossible movies, and they're getting better as they go on. They're not getting worse.
Can I fucking help you, Kat?
We can kind of cruise this conversation back to Queen of the Damned. If we would like.
Well, before you do that, I just want to mention that was good. That was good. My favorite performance is just real quick is The Last Samurai. I love that movie.
Okay, that's a good role. That's a good movie regardless, but he's actually really. I never said I hated Tom Cruise's acting. I just said that, Fuck, dude, he was probably one of my most entertained times was when I saw him in Tropic Thunder. I didn't realize it was him in Tropic Thunder until like halfway through the movie.
I hit Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, that's his best performance because Kubrick made
That's
him
true.
go mad.
I forgot about that.
So.
Yeah, it's such a weird fucking movie, though. It's hard for me to focus on the performances. But you're right. That's a good. I forgot about that one. And actually, that's a great segue into my honorable mentions because one of my honorable mentions is Top Gun.
Okay, there you go.
The soundtrack for that movie is, whether you like it or not, is iconic. Between Kenny Loggins, who's done several things in Footloose. What's that? Caddyshack. Yep. Okay. So he's done quite a few, but and then the Top Gun theme, the instrumental piece, was one of the first things I tried to learn when I was playing guitar before I gave up. So
Kenny Loggins.
You guys gonna make this sequel?
Actually,
yes, it's Top Gun Maverick. They're shooting as we speak.
I don't know if you. Fun fact for Kenny Loggins, his cousin actually wrote the Masters theme song. The Masters, the golf tournament.
Oh,
like
really?
The very peaceful.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because it's the exact opposite of what Kenny Loggins does. So
I will say this: that the funniest thing I've ever seen. I have Top Gun on Blu-ray, and one of the extra features is the music video for the theme song. And the guy playing the guitar, that infamous guitar riff, is wearing a 6-inch stiletto heel in the video.
Well, that makes sense because it's the gayest movie ever. So it is the most homoerotic film I've ever seen, and it's so nationalistic that it's funny. And it's the reason that he felt so bad that he made Born on the 4th of July, because he realized how many lives he ruined by making children join the military.
And yet he's making a sequel. So there you go.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
I'll go see it. I'm not going to lie. I will see that movie, and I will probably try to go to the theater to see it. So
I will see it, and I will, because I can't make fun of something unless I've seen it. So
well, there you go. Which will take me to another classic movie from that time period, The Karate Kid Part 2.
Yes, whenever people think of classics from the mid-'80s.
Yes, they do. No, wait. See, you guys are just too young for this shit. That's the problem.
Yes, for this shit. Literal shit. You're right.
I'm with Dustin on this one.
I figured you would be. Peter Cetera, more music.
The second one is...
Right, but Peter Cetera's soundtrack for 2 is more well-known than for the first one.
Okay. I don't recall it. I mean...
The Glory of Love.
Ralph Macchio, right?
What?
It's still Ralph Macchio in it, right?
Yeah.
How many did he do before? And then they did
3.
Hilary Swank. That was really bad.
She was the 4th one, and now they're doing it. And now they're doing that Cobra Kai show, which both him and Billy Zabka have showed up on. Well, Billy Zabka is the star of, and Macchio.
It's pretty good. I enjoy it so far.
I haven't watched it, so
it's nostalgia, and that's
also with fucking Will Smith Jr.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that. I actually own that one. I actually like that one.
Wow, if I need to watch a shitty movie, I should go to your house.
Yeah, thanks. It's not like I paid good money for these. I got it in the $5 bin. But anyway, and then that brings me to another one from that same era, and that's Back to the Future, which is a great soundtrack.
Huey Lewis in the
Yep, Huey Lewis.
With a great cameo in Back to the Future.
Yep, he does.
Yep.
And then you got Johnny B. Good, Earth Angel. So it goes all around the musical spectrum in that one too, which is good. One of my favorite scenes actually from that movie is obviously fictitious, but Marty's on stage playing Johnny B. Good towards the end, and the singer from the band's got the cut hand, and he calls Marvin, and he calls his cousin, was it cousin Chuck, I think, and he goes,
"Yeah,
know that new sound you were looking for? Listen to this." So I think that's funny.
It's your cousin Marvin Berry.
Yeah.
Which I remember, I think it was Fact or something, but some spoof website said, so basically Michael J. Fox supplied black music.
Yeah, because there's oh man, that do a Back to the Future episode. There's a lot, because then we can go on the Eric Stoltz thing, then you can go on the Crispin Glover thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good episode right there.
I'm all for doing a Back to the Future episode. We could totally do that. I'm all for that. And the fact that I'm still waiting for the self-tying shoes and the fucking hoverboard. That's all I'm saying.
Do we really need fucking hoverboards though? We already fall down walking. Do we need fucking to make that worse?
No, but I could use the self-tying shoes. I could take those. But
yeah, that'd be it.
I think I read also
did they actually?
The actor who plays Biff, his son was just signed by the Mets for a minor league contract, baseball contract. That was kind of a funny.
That's interesting, yeah.
And
yes,
they're such bad guys that they have.
And yes, Rico, they did make the shoes, but they only made a limited number of them. I want to say 100 or something like that, and they were selling for $300 a pair or some ridiculous number. So yeah.
Yeah, Michael Fox got the first pair.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he didn't pay for his. I'm sure they gave him his gratis, but and that actually leads me to two more movies from that same area, both John Hughes films, and that would be Weird Science and The Breakfast Club.
Boingo Boingo!
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I love me some Boingo Boingo.
Yeah.
Oh god. I love me some Danny Elfman. The Forbidden Zone? Come on, that's an awful movie with an amazing soundtrack. Right
Which
there.
one?
Yes.
The Forbidden Zone.
I don't know that one.
That's Boingo Boingo's movie. That's their band movie.
Oh wow, I'll have to see that.
Is Danny Elfman to play for Devil?
Yeah, he's Cab Calloway. Danny Elfman being Cab Calloway being Devil. Yeah. And it's so batshit insane, and you don't know what the fuck's going on. And it's amazing. It's an amazing movie for how awful it is. Divine's in it as well. The little person from Boss the Plane. That guy.
Yeah. Shit. I know who you're talking about. But
I know who. Fuck. What is it?
To Danny something?
Yeah. We're not that old that doesn't come right to our heads. So
yeah,
it's a French sounding name. It's fuck, what is his name? He was also Tattoo in one of the Bond movies.
Yeah. Oh no, Tattoo's the name of the character on the show. I thought
the show. Yeah,
not from Bond.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he plays Tic Tac or something.
Anyway, let's move forward. But there's some really good. I mean that Don't You Forget About Me, Simple Minds. That iconic scene at the end of Breakfast Club where he's Judd Nelson's got his fist up in the air. That's just a great song.
Now it's in my head. You got stuck in my head now. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to help. And then the Weird Science theme itself is a great song.
The music video is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
My brother-in-law just made a short film, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is the Weird Science music video. This is what this feels like."
Nice.
And I mean that as a compliment because it's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but I think those movies, and John Hughes, much like some of these other directors we've been talking about throughout this episode, like Quentin Tarantino, for example, took his music very, very seriously when it came to his movies, almost to the point that I heard, ironically, recently Kevin talking about it, that John Hughes almost wrote the movies to the soundtrack. So he'd pick the music first. He'd have a concept for what he wants for the movie to be, but that would be it. And then he'd pick his music and then write the movie to fit the music.
I can see that. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that's cool. I can dig that.
I got the name of the fucking dude.
Yeah, because he's dead, so let's give him some credit.
What was it, Hervé
Villechaize. And it wasn't Tic Tac, it's Knick Knack.
Knick Knack. Well, you were close. You had the right idea.
I was close.
Yeah.
Do you know who his cousin was, actually?
No.
Paddywhack, actually.
Okay.
Knick Knack Paddywhack. Those are the cousins.
Give a dog a fucking bone.
I was just moving on, really, is what I was trying to do.
CJ, to go with your John Hughes thing, I was actually gonna. One of my honorable mentions is Ferris Bueller, because the soundtrack is not stupendous.
Yeah, that's another good one.
But it's got two of the like every time I watch where he sings Donkey Shane and Twist and Shout, you can't help but get up and kind of go along with it and lip sync to him lip syncing.
Oh, I can, but more power to you, Rico, if you want to go dancing around your house. I want video of that, though, so please put that as a Rico's rant or something, because I want to see that.
Okay.
Moving on. Another one that I felt like
just play the music down. I'll do it.
All right. The next one that I wanted to mention was That Thing You Do.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's another really good.
Oh god, that's just a good film. That whole film.
And that's one where the director's cut pays off.
Yeah.
That director's cut is ridiculously good.
That was Tom Hanks' first film that he directed, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, what a bang. Like what a movie to come out with.
Yeah. I'm getting from
movie.
from the look on your face, Rico, that you don't agree.
No, the audio froze for a second, so I was trying to listen to what the fuck was about. I didn't want to say anything. And then it caught up, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I got you. You know, it's the original songs are good. Which a lot of them are, like it's not just the Wonders. Those other artists that are on the Playtone, they're all original songs for that movie. And the Diane Lane song is not Diane Lane. What is her name? The woman that Jimmy flirts with, the older woman.
Oh.
Diane Dane. That's it. It's
Dane. Oh,
yeah, Diane Dane. And then there's the African American trio that the bass player, who poor guy never gets a name, falls in love with one of them. But their song was good too. And have you seen the extenders, the director's cut, Rico?
I haven't seen the extenders cut. The director's cut. No, I saw the original.
The bass player ends up getting with one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What, did you not see it either, Dustin?
I'm sure that I have. I just don't remember it. I feel like I've always seen it as like, it's one of those shows that if I'm like in a hotel or flipping through and it's on, I'll just watch it. Cause I watched it like probably 6 months ago in a hotel and I was like, oh my God, this is so great.
Well, the drummer character, he knocks on the bass player's door, and as he opens up to go in there, and they're laying in bed together. So, but
who was the drummer? Steve Zahn, was he the drummer?
No, Steve Zahn was the guitar player.
Tom Everett Scott, the main guy.
Yeah. Who? So, by the way, real quick trivia piece that you guys probably know because you know all this shit, but Tom Hanks made all four of them learn how to play the Wonder songs. So when you see them playing, even though it's probably recording for the Foley purpose, they are actually playing the song. So they actually got together last year for Kimmel, I think, or for one of those shows, or for maybe as a benefit. I don't remember, but everyone except oh Jesus, why can't I remember his name? The bass player, Ethan Embry. I think everybody but Ethan Embry made it, and they did That Thing You Do. They played it live.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool.
Yeah, he was just the bass player, right?
Right.
He didn't have a name.
It wasn't even that. It was TB player.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, and it stood for the bass player. But yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a great one. Rico, I'm gonna throw something in your wheelhouse so you can chime in a little more. But Deadpool, the first one.
I was thinking about that actually. Yeah, I think the first because actually I listened to our episode of Deadpool earlier in Deadpool 2, so it actually kind of was like, fuck, why I should have added that to my list. But yeah, I would agree. The soundtrack, especially with Wham, it was actually really good, and Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of even the one "Don't Call Me Angel," the song that it opens with during I mean, the whole soundtrack is really, really good. And then, I've talked about this on the Deadpool episode, but I love DMX. He's one of my favorite rappers. So that DMX track when they're walking to go after Ajax at the end, or Francis, that's. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that now. But anyway,
good one. Speaking of, here's someone for you, CJ. Like a good metal soundtrack for a comic movie, The Crow.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And honestly, I didn't see The Crow until last year for the first time. But you're right. There's some really good music on there. I'm not as familiar with it, though, so that's probably why it didn't make my list or even my honorable mentions list, because I'd only seen the movie for the first time, like I said, last year, and never really found myself associated with anything with it, so the soundtrack even up until that point. So I'm not as versed in that one. I mean, for that same reason, you could go Hackers, because there's a lot of Prodigy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, now Rico's never seen that. So,
That's an awful movie with a good soundtrack.
See, I like the movie. It's not a good movie, but I like the movie. It's just one of those guilty pleasure movies. Like, I'm not going to tell you it's a good movie, but it's a fun movie. Does that make sense?
I've not seen Hackers.
Yeah, Rico's never seen Hackers. I'm trying to get him to do it. We've talked about it on a couple different episodes. But...
That'd be a fun one to watch and like have a couple drinks and make fun of. Like that's kind of what Hackers is to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do it. I did buy the 20th anniversary edition on Blu-ray, but yeah.
But I was going to say Maximum Overdrive, the only movie that Stephen King directed that he...
Oh, Kevin talks about that one a lot. That's the one where the truck comes to life or something, right? Yeah.
Emilio Estevez and AC/DC did the whole soundtrack for it.
Well, they did that for Iron Man 2 as well.
Well, this was in the 80s, so it was more fun, and everyone was on coke, so it was just crazy.
Yeah, because that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you see AC/DC in their van, and then they die. It's pretty crazy.
Dustin, I got an honorable mention. I think you may agree with me on The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Apparently not as much as I thought.
I mean, yeah, I really like The Lost Boys. I mean, the soundtrack's fun. It's really dated and cheesy, but I mean, like I went, it's not my favorite vampire movie from that year. So, yeah.
The soundtrack stuck with me because I saw it when I was a kid, and the
soundtrack,
"Cry Little Sister" part always stuck with me. Whereas, like me and my friend were always like, like we're always just making references to it.
Yeah, it is a good soundtrack. It is a good soundtrack,
especially for a horror film. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it starts off with the sax, and it's got that very 80s. I mean, even when they just made the comic book run, like the first issue cover was the sax player. Like that was one of the alternate covers.
Well,
honestly, that movie fucking that part just stops it for me for 2 minutes. That the big muscled up dude just rocking out, all oiled up with a fucking saxophone. I'm just like, what fucking movie is this? Oh wait, still in Santa Cruz? That makes sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, to your point, Rico, about horror movies, like these weren't on my honorable mentions, but I can name two off the top of my head that are really good soundtracks, and that's Alone in the Dark, which I never seen, but I heard was not very good. But the soundtracks were ridiculous.
Did you just say a U-Bowl movie? You just referenced a U-Bowl movie.
No, I said, where did you know?
Alone in the Dark.
That's okay. Well, I don't even know who that is, but so
he's the Ed Wood of our generation. He's the new Ed Wood.
Okay, so but the soundtrack is a 2-disc
German.
Yeah, well, it's a 2-disc heavy metal punch you in the face soundtrack, unedited. It should have a parental advisory sticker and it doesn't. It's just a really good collection of heavy metal. And then Freddy vs. Jason is another one that is a really good soundtrack.
That's a good one.
And I'm not saying the movie's good, but the soundtrack's amazing.
I'm trying to think of the sound. I mean, yeah, the soundtrack's good. I mean, yeah, because you guys are more into music than I am. Like, I didn't really notice the soundtrack as much as the movie. I was more into Freddy vs. Jason the movie than I was to the soundtrack.
And then End of Days is another one that's got a good soundtrack. That movie's terrible.
End of Days does have a good soundtrack. That is a bad movie, but that one does have a good soundtrack. So, I remember that one.
Some good and some bad horror movies tend to have really good soundtracks.
And it's usually metal.
That's true.
Which is why it's right in my wheelhouse.
The Resident Evil movie was a bad one. It had a good...
I like the first one. The first Resident Evil was good.
He did all music for the first one, didn't he?
For the score, but there's different bands on the soundtrack itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did do the score. You're right. But getting back to my list, because I only have 2 left, and then if you want to go anywhere else or we can call it a night, that's up to you guys. But Pirate Radio.
That's a good one. That's a good list.
Oh, is that Philip Seymour Hoffman film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they're on the British radio.
Philip Seymour Hoffman movie.
Yeah. I love that movie. It's a fun movie. Lot of character actors in that movie, with a handful of exceptions, but mostly character actors. But then you got Bill Nye; he's in that. I'm trying to think. There's a guy we had talked about on a different episode, Rico. I pulled him from The Replacements. He was the place kicker, but you said he was in another movie too. But he plays the really suave.
Rise Ifans.
I don't know his name. So
blonde gentleman from Notting Hill.
Yeah, Rise Ifans. Yeah.
Yeah, Notting Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny Deckchair. That was another good movie of his.
What is it?
Danny Deckchair.
I didn't see that one. never heard of it actually. But then you have
the movie I remember him most recently was where he has like a love, like a huge obsession crush on Daniel Craig.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, really. But then you have, like I said, you get a lot of character actors like Rhys Darby. He's in that. And I only know him because he does the voice on a lot of animated things that I watch, including the new Voltron series that's on Netflix. And then there was one other person I wanted to point out. What's his name? Shit.
Chris O'Dowd in that, right? Wasn't Chris O'Dowd on that one as well?
I might be, yeah. That's not who I was going to say, but you're right. So from Sherlock, Rico, do you remember there's 2 episodes where he's got the drug dealer helping him out? When they find Sherlock in like the crack den, and then there's that other guy that kind of helps him with. He's in that movie. He plays a character named Thick Carl. It was just a really dumb character, but on purpose.
Because he's thick, yeah. I vaguely, I don't remember, I don't have a face. I know the scene. I just don't remember who the fuck was. I can look him up.
Yeah, he's a tall, skinny guy. I don't know who he is. And he's not famous. Like, he's not known. He just has these character roles, you know. So
it's Tom Brooke. You're talking about Tom Brooke.
Okay, sure.
He was also in Preacher. He has a good run on the TV show Preacher.
Oh, I saw that in his credits. I've never seen it, but I've seen that he's in that. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite graphic novels adaptations. It's really good.
The
but
AMC
it's also
show?
Nick Frost in that too. I don't know if I heard you mention Nick Frost from
I didn't
Jonathan
know.
Demme, Hot Fuzz. He's also in Pirate Radio. But yeah, okay. Richard Curtis, who directed, he did Love Actually also, which had a really good soundtrack.
It did, and that's one of my favorite Christmas movies, honestly. I watch that every year around Christmas time. That and Scrooge. Those are the 2 movies I watch around Christmas every year.
Die Hard for me. Die Hard and Gremlins.
You'd see Gremlins 2, though, right? Or the first one?
The first one. The second one doesn't take place at Christmas, does it?
I thought it did. I thought they were both at Christmas.
I don't think it does.
The first one takes place at Christmas.
I don't think it does. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, first one does.
I don't know it well enough to argue, so that's fine. And then the last one on my list, and this was not in any order, but these are my honorable mentions, is A Knight's Tale, which I also thought was a really good one. And what I really liked about that one, more than most movies, and even some of the ones that are on my list, is how they integrated the music into the movie. So you have all this modern music set in medieval England or medieval Europe, because it's in France at some point and stuff too. But
that's a way to tie it back to what the theme that we discussed earlier in the show was about all these films that take place in a certain time period and then echoing back to different songs to evoke emotions that to help us kind of understand the character. We talked about with Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
It's I mean, then Knight's Tale was amazing.
It's really like, I mean, even from the opening scene where there hasn't been any dialogue yet, and they're waiting for the first joust, and it starts off playing "We Will Rock You" by Queen, and it's the recording. Yes, thank you. It's the recording, but then it transitions to the crowd actually doing the stomp, stomp, clap, and it transitions into that, and they finish the song off. Even the guitar solo, when it hits the guitar solo, that real high wailing part that Brian May pulls off, it's them pulling the trumpets up and blowing into the trumpet. So they link it to the song in a really fun way that doesn't really make it out of place. And then you got Thin Lizzy. The boys are back in town when they come back to England for the ending tournament. And there's songs throughout. I can't think of them all. What?
Helgeland, who directed that movie, that guy, he deserves. The poor guy. He has the worst luck with movies. All of his movies seem to bomb, but all of them I find very enjoyable.
Knight's Tale is one of my favorites. I love that movie, and it actually got me to like David Bowie, because I'm not a big Bowie person, but Golden Years I love, and it was because of the dance scene after the first tournament in that movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, Heath Ledger, like, the whole movie is just amazing. Like, and it was one of those movies that didn't, if I recall correctly, it didn't perform very well when it first came out, and, came out on DVD and finally caught it, and they were like...
Yeah, it's one of those cult type
it became
movies.
A cult classic.
That's every Brian Helgeland movie that he directed. Payback was his first movie with Mel Gibson, tanked, and then it came out with the director's cut. Everyone loved it and realized how great it was, and then Knight's Tale, and then The Order, the movie he did directly after another Heath Ledger film, bombed, and then came out, kind of got a cult following.
I mean, Paul Bettany is actually fantastic in that.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Chaucer. Yeah, That's where I
Right.
first saw Paul Bettany. First time I saw him anywhere was that movie. First time I saw Heath Ledger too, to be fair. But
Yeah.
and I can't remember the actor's name, but the pudgier
Mark
Harold,
Addy.
he got a TV show off that movie. It didn't last very long, but I remember he got a show
Dude,
off that.
he was in the first season of Game of Thrones. He plays the original king.
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
watch
beginning
Game of
the show.
Thrones. So.
That was one of my first for seeing Alan Tudyk also.
Yes.
Alan Tudyk was in that one as well.
Tudyk.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there, but yeah.
Tomato, potato, whatever. Who gives a fuck?
No, that's sorry if you're gonna pronounce the fucking guy's name. Renat's right.
All right, Mila Jovovich, whatever. Calm
Yeah,
down.
right. Way to pull it back. Good job, Dustin. Thank you. You deserved that one, Rico. You did. That was good.
Shut up.
Okay. So, bad movies with good soundtracks.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon.
I don't know that one. I know the movie, but I don't know the soundtrack. I don't.
We have Queen working on that.
Well, I know that song that Rico just badly
And then
butchered.
Highlander, another good, actually good movie with Queen doing the.
Yeah.
We are the princes of the universe.
Yep.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I'll give you that one.
Did you guys see the new trailer for the new
Sing
Creed
that.
movie?
You have to do.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. That's going to be amazing. And Rami Malek is going to
so
kill
good.
it. He's going to kill that role, and I mean that as positively as I can say it. Now, I will tell you this. I'm not a fan of this guy, not Rami Malek. I was going to say somebody else. But when Sacha Baron Cohen was going to play him, I was actually excited for that. I'm not a fan of him. I don't like Borat or any of those movies, but I thought he was going to do that role some justice. Now, it does look like from the trailer that Rami Malek, because I'm a huge Mr. Robot fan, so I like this guy a lot already. And he's actually in a video game that I played called Until Dawn, because they did a lot of mocap for that. And he's one of the bigger names in that game. And he was great in that too. So but I'm with you, Rico. That's going to be amazing.
Talking about Mr. Robot, Mr. Christian Slater and Mr. Robot. It's another great one. I remember Pump Up the Volume, that movie from the.
Is that the one where he was a pirate radio person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, so I can't. I have yet to see it in its full thing.
I recommend going back and rewatching it. It's a fun movie, and it's pretty timely for today, and the soundtrack's pretty killer. It's
not just that, but to me, and obviously no one could have ever conceived of it at the time, but that's really your first podcast because it's unedited. There's no rules. The only difference is it's not recorded. It's going out live. But other than that, it's really your first podcast. So
I mean, that was just those pirate radio, Mac. Tying all back to that. So
well, pirate radio though, unlike Pump Up the Volume, because I know the concept behind Pump Up the Volume, I just haven't seen it in its entirety. But the difference is pirate radio, while the story is fictional, it's based on real life events that happened. There was a time when Britain tried to outlaw rock music, and these people went 15 miles off the coast, or whatever, the 13 miles or whatever it is, off the coast of England, where they were in international waters and could broadcast without being quote unquote regulated. And that's the genesis of what happened with that movie.
It happened all over. You had the similar in Cuba. You had a lot of issues where, like with punk scene, the punk scene actually in Cuba was really huge, and there was a very similar kind of pirate radio. I mean, all across the world, you've had these pop up.
Right, but I think England's was just
better,
more. Well, I was gonna say more documented, more than anything, really. But so,
and you had bands come out of that scene too. So
yeah. So, any other honorable mentions from you guys? Because my list is shot. I'm done.
No, I think we talked about nauseam.
I've got a couple more.
With the song in it.
All right, what do you got, Rico? Rico's got a couple more. What do you got?
One of my all-time favorite movies, especially when I was a kid, and I still think the soundtrack is great because it's tailored for the film, was Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
because a lot of it is like female based or lady based. Like dude looks like a lady. You got Luck, Luck be a lady. You got
wait, he went to a Sinatra song.
Huh?
You picked out a Sinatra song? There's a shock.
Shut the fuck up. The other honorable mention. See, I have one I know won't fit this list because it's technically a musical, but it's a spoof musical, and that's "Walk Hard," the Dewey Cox story with John C. Reilly.
I was
going to mention that earlier. Whenever we were talking about the Beatles, it made me think of that scene when he met the Beatles, which was pretty spot on.
That's what I was thinking too. So the soundtrack I fucking love. I mean, it's got a great soundtrack. It's all original music, and John C. Reilly actually all the songs are really catchy.
I have one of my good friends. Me and him hang out. We just sing Dewey Cox songs. It's
I've never seen it. So I can't.
You will enjoy it. It's pretty fun. All the songs are like heavy-handed innuendos, like "Let's duet together." In my dreams, you're blowing me
some kisses.
Like it's like very heavy-handed innuendos that are just they beat you over the head with it, and that's part of the fun with it. So
the wrong kid died.
Shut up, Paul, before I say something you regret.
Like the wrong kid died.
You guys have no idea what the fuck we're saying right now.
No. Rico, can we end this episode without talking about Clerk's soundtrack? Do we need to include that? Because
well, you already kind of are doing that, so no, apparently.
Okay. You know what? Fuck you.
You just have to edit this. You just have to edit this out. Just take this portion out, and then you succeeded. He's at a loss for words.
No, apparently we're not going to talk about it. So
once I actually got CJ to not have a rebuttal.
Oh, whatever. 90% of our episodes is you talking.
It's funny. It is funny. It's funny you bring up Rico because my love for you is like a truck. Would you like some making fuck?
Berserker.
Oh,
nicely played, sir.
Would you like some making fuck?
Yeah, Berserker.
I will say, actually, I think I like the soundtrack for Jan Silent Bob Strike Back more than I did for the first Clerk.
Yeah, because there was money. There was actual what a
Wookiee
more than $5 on the soundtrack.
Yeah, but What a Wookiee is a good song. I like that song.
Is it? I thought Chewbacca. Is it What a Wookiee or is it
might be called Chewbacca? You might be right. I can't argue that, but it's
called. Just asking. I never I wasn't sure.
It's called Chewbacca, but it's the fucking chorus is What a Wookiee.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I remember the soundtrack for Jan Silent Bob Strike Back, and it was just I have a love for that movie. I've talked about it many times on this show, but I remember when Shannon Elizabeth's character walks into the movies, and it's the song is Bad Medicine. I'm like, I don't even like the song, but it just fits perfectly with that. And Jay is on erection, he's just humping the air, and I'm like, it is so fucking funny.
That's also every teenage 12, 13-year-old boy's reaction to that scene. So that's why it was so perfect of a song to do, because that's encompasses all of that so well.
Yeah, and that song.
Yeah, that works, guys. I was
that song brings back some bad memories for me. So it's I can't get into that here.
Bad medicine to you? To hear
yes,
it?
Bad memories for Bad Medicine?
I terribly.
That sounds like an awful / good song.
No, I love the song. I do actually, but there's actually some.
Any other honorable mentions?
What's that? Oh yeah, what another one did you have?
I'm trying to remember, but I had one. I think I just fucking lost it. Because I think the one I was thinking of was Walk Hard, but I was on the fence of whether that qualified or not because it's technically a musical. But I'm just trying to think of soundtracks that I loved listening to when I was a kid. And honestly, Beavis and Butthead Do America has an amazing soundtrack.
It does actually. I can't disagree with that. It does. There's some good songs on there. It's got one of the only Chili Pepper songs I like.
It's so weird because I was at the bar around the corner from my house. And I was just hanging out with my friend who works there. We're just having a drink. I'm outside having a cigarette, and I hear one of the fucking songs from the soundtrack. I'm like, did I just fucking walk into Beavis and Butthead Do America? And then when I go in after that song to finish my drink, fucking Ozzy's Walk on Water pops up, and I'm like, this is the fucking soundtrack of Beavis and Butthead. And I'm like, who put this shit on the jukebox? And the guy raises, I'm like, you picked the Beavis and Butthead Do American soundtrack. He's like, yeah, dude, I know, you're the only person who got that. And he's like, just wait, there's going to be like 4 more songs.
Yeah.
Was it Mike Judge? I mean, is that who you met at the bar that night?
That's funny.
Because he's probably the only other person in America who would do that.
On a jukebox, he's probably right, Rico. I can't argue with it. It's a good soundtrack, but he's probably the only other.
It was not Mike Judge. But I am Mike judging you for that joke.
This goes back to the bad movies with good soundtracks, like Road Trip.
Oh yeah, Road Trip had a fun. You know what? The Ills, What a Beautiful Day. I have that song on a like a shuffle somewhere. I absolutely love that song. That's a great one.
That's a good one. But I'm thinking of like Tricky by Run DMC. I Want to Rock by Twisted Sister. I can't talk tonight.
That is a fun, and it kind of goes to like movies that probably were seen at like, I don't know, in teenage years kind of thing. You know, like they're really kind of
early 20s. But yeah.
Like that is an awful movie.
Yeah.
But I saw it probably 100 times because I love the music in it so much too. And I was like, I don't know, a kid. I was like 12, 13 seeing it all the time.
It's also one of the few movies where Sean William Scott didn't piss me off. So, like, usually he annoys the fuck out of me, and that one I can kind of stomach him in.
I thought that Bulletproof Monk was your favorite movie.
I think I've liked him in everything.
I've never even seen. Yeah,
It's an awful movie. Don't worry.
He's not the best part of the American Pie movies. He's not. Not by a long shot.
If someone says that, then you should punch them in the face and tell them that they're wrong.
I have to agree.
Guys, I'm gonna have to hang up in a minute because my tablet's at 15%.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't have my charger up here.
No, I think we've kicked this dog a few times, too many already. So we're probably. I
had one more comment.
Come on, man.
But none of that came through. What did?
I have one more honorable mention. It was tailing off of Road Trip.
Okay.
It was Euro Trip. The soundtrack is not that great, but it gives me fucking Scotty Doesn't Know, which is one of the fucking catchiest songs I've ever listened to. Because the movie's fine, but the song is just great, especially in the movie where Matt Damon is fucking like rocking out with a shaved head.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
I've never seen it, so I can't.
It's exactly the same as Euro Trip, just in Europe. And the song Scotty Doesn't Know by Lustra is featured heavily in the film, throughout the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well.
On that note,
yeah.
Shit.
Well, before we close it off, I do want to put one disclaimer out there so we don't take shit from the internet. We did not pick any Bond movies because the theme songs don't count. They're independent songs, so we all love and enjoy in some capacity or another, but they're not.
Sure.
That's why Bond was not brought up by any of us. I think we discussed that at some point prior to this recording. Mm-hmm. So just want to put that out there because I can hear people who know me going, "How did you not pick that Chris Cornell song from?"
I did it in memory in honor of Chris Cornell personally. So
yeah, all right. So, Dustin, thank you for joining us. We truly do appreciate it. It's fun to have you on as our guest, and probably our last because we won't have another episode after this. No,
I'm glad to know that I came on and I enjoyed my time and I killed the show. I'm happy.
Well, somebody's got to kill
distinction.
The show. Someone's got to be the one to kill it, you know. So,
as long as it's not me, that's all I care about.
And I'm the scapegoat again. And it's the second time.
Someone's got to do it.
So that's good.
So, anything you want to plug before we call tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can find me online. I got a couple projects I'm announcing in the next month that I'll be pretty excited about. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm Devot on Twitter and Whiskey Whiskers on Instagram. So yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
I like it actually. We're gonna have to follow
That's
that.
awesome.
You should say Whiskey Whiskers Whispers 3 times fast. It's a lot of fun to say.
No,
Whiskey. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, stop. Don't.
But
just
so
stop.
thanks for having me on, guys. I had a lot of fun, and I hope we can get together and do it again sometime.
No, absolutely. All kidding aside, it was a lot of fun, and I don't think it killed the show. So, we will certainly do it again at some point down the road, and we'll make it work. And make sure you send me those credentials again, and I'll make sure to put them at the end like we do with all of our other ones. So,
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks for coming on. Rico, any final words before we call tonight?
Toothpaste, bubblegum, apple cinnamon.
Okay, relevant words.
No.
Okay. On that note, goodbye. Hey everybody, CJ here with a few thank yous and I'll let you know how you can get in touch with and follow the show and us. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music to listen to, subscribe, rate, and comment on the show, or Listen Notes podcast search engine at www.listennotes.com. Go there, type in PodAskew, all one word, and you can stream us right there. If you want to agree with or yell at us directly, follow Rico, me, and the show on Twitter. The show is at PodAskew, Rico is at Rants Rico, and I'm at M_Blade. If you need to contact the show for promotional reasons, tweet Stephanie at PodAskewPR. Our special guest, Dustin, is at D_Vaught. That's D_VAUGHT. He's on Instagram at whiskey_whiskers. Check out Rico's YouTube channel, Rico's Rants, on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Rico's Rants. Thank you to Dubbed in English for our opening theme music, 96 Reasons. They're no longer online, but you can contact me for a copy of the full song or the whole Plan 9 EP. Thank you to Samuel Lemons for our closing music, Theme Askew. You can find his music on SoundCloud at www.soundcloud.com/Samuel-Lemons. Finally, our biggest thank you is to you, everyone, for listening. Rico and I really appreciate your time and look forward to bringing you another episode soon.
My love for you is like a truck berserker. Would you like some making fuck berserker?
Did he say making fuck?
Damn it! PodAskew. PodAskew.